The Book of Sirach, Ecclesiasticus. Prologue. Whereas many and great matters have been delivered to us through the Torah and the prophets and by others that have followed their paths, for which Yisrael ought to be commended for learning and wisdom, and of which not only the readers need to become competent themselves, but also those who desire to learn to be able to benefit those who are outside, both by speaking and writing. My grandfather, Yeshua, when he applied himself greatly to the reading of the law and the prophets and other books of our fathers, and had acquired good judgment from them, was himself also led to write somewhat pertaining to learning and wisdom, to the intent that those who desire to learn and are drawn to such might profit much more in living according to the law. Therefore, let me plead with you that you read it with good intent and attention, and to pardon us for where we may seem to come short in some words, which we have labored to interpret. For the same words spoken in Ibrit and translated into another tongue do not have the same force in them. And not only this, but the law itself and the prophets and the rest of the books have great difference when they're spoken in their own language. For in the 38th year of the coming into Mitzrayim, when Eugaretes was sovereign, and continuing there some time, I found a book of great learning. Therefore I thought it necessary for me to devote some diligence and labor to interpret it, using great vigilance and skill in that time to complete the book, and also publish it for those in a foreign land who are willing to learn, being prepared before in manners to live after the law. Chapter 1. All wisdom comes from Yahuwah, and is with him forever. Who may number the sand of the sea and the drops of rain, and the days of eternity? Who may search out the height of the heavens, and the breadth of the earth, and the deep, and wisdom? Wisdom has been created before all, and the understanding of insight from everlasting. The word of Elohim Most High is the fountain of wisdom, and her ways are everlasting commands. To whom has the root of wisdom been revealed, or who has known her wise counsels? Unto whom has the knowledge of wisdom been made manifest, and who has understood her great experience? There is one wise and greatly to be revered, Yahuwah sitting upon his throne. He created her, and saw her, and measured her, and poured her out upon all his works. She is with all flesh according to his gift, and he has given her to those who love him. The reverence of Yahuwah is esteem and splendor and gladness, and a crown of rejoicing. The reverence of Yahuwah makes a glad heart, and gives joy and gladness and a long life. It shall go well to the end for he who reveres Yahuwah, and he shall find favor in the day of his death. To revere Yahuwah is the beginning of wisdom, and it was created with the trustworthy in the womb. She has built an everlasting foundation with men, and she shall continue with their seed. To revere Yahuwah is fullness of wisdom, and fills men with her fruits. She fills all their house with that which is desirable, and the gatherers with her increase. The reverence of Yahuwah is a crown of wisdom, making peace and perfect health to flourish, both of which are gifts of Elohim, and it increases the rejoicing of those that love him. Wisdom rains down skill and knowledge of understanding, and exalts to esteem those who hold her fast. The root of wisdom is to revere Yahuwah, and the branches thereof are long life. The reverence of Yahuwah drives away sins, and where wrath is present, it turns away wrath. A wrathful man cannot be declared right, for the sway of his wrath shall be his destruction. A patient man shall weep for a time, and afterward joy shall spring up in him. He shall hold his words for a time, and the lips of many shall declare his wisdom. The parables of knowledge are in the treasures of wisdom, but reverence is an abomination to a sinner. If you desire wisdom, guard the commands, and Yahuwah shall give her to you. For the reverence of Yahuwah is wisdom and instruction, and belief and meekness are his delight. Do not doubt the reverence of Yahuwah when you are poor, and do not come to him with a double mind. Do not be a hypocrite in the sight of men, and take heed what you speak. Do not exalt yourself, lest you fall, and bring shame upon yourself. And so Elohim uncover your secrets, and throw you down in the midst of the assembly, because you did not come in truth to the reverence of Yahuwah, but your heart is full of deceit. Chapter 2. My son, if you come to serve Yahuwah, prepare your being for trial. Prepare your heart, and constantly endure, and do not hasten in time of trouble. Cling to him, and do not depart, that you may be increased at your latter end. Whatsoever is brought upon you, accept it cheerfully, and be patient when you are brought low. For gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. Believe in him, and he shall help you. Establish your way and trust in him. You who revere Yahuwah, wait for his kindness, and do not turn aside lest you fall. You who revere Yahuwah, believe him, and your reward shall not fail. You who revere Yahuwah, have expectancy for good, and for everlasting joy and kindness. Look at the generations of old and see, did any ever trust in Yahuwah and were put to shame? Or did any remain in his reverence and were forsaken? Or whom did he ever despise that called upon him? For Yahuwah is full of compassion and kindness, patient and very tender-hearted, and forgives sins, and saves in time of affliction. Woe unto fearful hearts and faint hands, and the sinner that goes two ways. Woe unto he who is faint-hearted, for he is unbelieving, therefore he shall not be defended. Woe unto you that have lost patience, and what shall you do when Yahuwah shall punish you? Those who revere Yahuwah shall not disobey his word, and those who love him guard his ways. Those who revere Yahuwah seek that which is well-pleasing to him, and those who love him shall be filled with the Torah. Those who revere prepare Yahuwah their hearts, and humble their beings in his sight, saying, We shall fall into the hands of Yahuwah, and not into the hands of men. For as his excellence is, so is his kindness. Chapter 3. Hear me, your father, O children, and do accordingly, that you may be safe. For Yahuwah has given the father esteem over the children, and has confirmed the authority of the mother over the sons. Whoever esteems his father makes an atonement for his sins, and he who esteems his mother is as one who stores up treasure. Whoever esteems his father shall have joy from his own children, and when he makes his prayer, he shall be heard. He who esteems his father shall have a long life, and he who is obedient to Yahuwah shall be a comfort to his mother. He who reveres Yahuwah shall esteem his father, and shall do service unto his parents as to his masters. Esteem your father and your mother, both in word and deed, that a blessing may come upon you from them. For the blessing of the father establishes the houses of children, but the curse of the mother roots out foundations. Do not rejoice in the shame of your father, for your father's shame is no esteem unto you. For the esteem of a man is from the esteem of his father, and a mother in shame is a reproach to the children. My son, help your father in his age, and do not grieve him as long as he lives. And if his understanding fails, have patience with him, and do not despise him when you are in your full strength. For the relief for your father shall not be forgotten, and instead of sin, it shall be added to build you up. In the day of your affliction it shall be remembered. Your sins also shall melt away as the ice in the fair warm weather. He who forsakes his father is as a blasphemer, and he who displeases his mother is cursed of Elohim. My son, go on with your business in meekness, so you shall be beloved of he who approves. The greater you are, the more you humble yourself, and you shall find favor before Yahuwah. Many are in high places and of name, but mysteries are revealed to the meek. For the power of Yahuwah is great. He is esteemed by the lowly. Do not search out that which is too hard for you, neither seek that which is above your strength. But what is commanded, think upon this with reverence. For it is not necessary for you to see with your eyes that which is secret. Do not be curious in unnecessary matters, for more is revealed to you than men understand. For many are deceived by their own worthless opinion, and evil suspicion has overthrown their judgment. Without eyes there is no light. Do not profess the knowledge which you do not have. A stubborn heart shall suffer evil in the end, and he who loves danger shall perish in it. A hard heart shall be loaded with sorrows, and the wicked man shall heap sin upon sin. In the punishment of the proud there is no remedy, for the plant of wickedness has taken root in him. The heart of the clever shall understand a parable, and an attentive ear is the desire of a wise man. Water shall quench a flaming fire, and kind deeds make an atonement for sins. And he who repays good deeds remembers that which may come after, and when he falls, he shall find a support. Chapter 4. My son, do not rob the poor of his living, and do not allow the needy eyes to wait long. Do not make a hungry being sorrowful, neither provoke a man in his distress. Do not add more trouble to a heart that is tortured, and do not delay to give to he who is in need. Do not reject the supplication of the afflicted, neither turn away your face from a poor man. Do not turn away your eye from the needy. Give him no occasion to curse you, for if he curses you in the bitterness of his being, his prayer shall be heard by he who made him. Earn for yourself the love of the assembly, and bow your head to a great man. Let it not grieve you to bend your ear to the poor, and give him a friendly answer with meekness. Deliver he who suffers wrong from the hand of the oppressor, and do not be faint-hearted when you sit in judgment. Be as a father to the fatherless, and like a husband to their mother. So you shall be as the Son of the Most High, and he shall love you more than your mother does. Wisdom exalts her children and lays hold of those who seek her. He who loves her loves life, and those who seek her early shall be filled with joy. He who holds her fast shall inherit esteem, and wherever she enters, Yahuwah shall bless. Those who serve her serve the set-apart one, and those who love her Yahuwah loves. Whoever gives ear to her shall judge the nations, and he who attends to her shall dwell securely. If a man commits himself to her, he shall inherit her, and his generation shall hold her in possession. For at first she shall walk by him in crooked ways, and bring fear and dread upon him, and punish him with her discipline, until she may trust his being and try him by her laws. Then she shall return him to the straight way, and comfort him and show him her secrets. But if he goes wrong, she shall forsake him, and give him over to his own ruin. Watch for opportunity and be aware of evil, and do not be ashamed when it concerns your being. For there is shame that brings sin, and there is shame which is esteem and favor. Do not show partiality against your being, and do not let the fear of any man cause you to fall. And do not refrain to speak when there is occasion to do good, and do not hide your wisdom in her loveliness. For by speech wisdom shall be known, and learning by the word of the tongue. By no means speak against the truth, but be ashamed of the straying of your ignorance. Do not be ashamed to confess your sins, and do not force the course of the river. Do not make yourself a servant to a foolish man, neither show partiality to the mighty. Strive for the truth unto death, and Yahuwah shall fight for you. Do not be hasty with your tongue, or slack and negligent in your deeds. Do not be as a lion in your house, nor wroth among your servants. Do not let your hands be stretched out to receive, and closed when you should repay. Chapter 5. Do not lay your heart upon your goods, and do not say, I have enough for my life. Do not follow your own mind and strength to walk in the ways of your heart. And do not say, who shall control me in my deeds? For Yahuwah shall surely punish your pride. Do not say, I have sinned, and what harm has befallen me? For Yahuwah is patient. He shall by no means let you go. Concerning atonement, do not be without reverence to add sin unto sin, and do not say, his kindness is great. He shall be appeased for the multitude of my sins. For kindness and wrath come from him, and his wrath rests upon sinners. Do not delay to turn to Yahuwah, and do not put off from day to day. For suddenly the wrath of Yahuwah shall come forth, and in your security you shall be destroyed, and perish in the day of vengeance. Do not lay your heart upon goods acquired unrighteously, for they shall not profit you in the day of calamity. Do not winnow with every wind, and do not go into every way, for so does the sinner who has a double tongue. Be steadfast in your understanding, and let your word be the same. Be swift to hear, and let your being be sincere, and give answer with patience. If you have understanding, answer your neighbor. If not, put your hand over your mouth. Esteem and shame is in speech, and the tongue of a man is his downfall. Do not be a whisperer, and do not lie in wait with your tongue. For foul shame is upon the thief, and an evil condemnation upon the double-tongued. Do not be ignorant of any matter, great or small. Chapter 6. Do not become an enemy instead of a friend, for you shall inherit an evil name, shame and reproach, even as a sinner that has a double tongue. Do not exalt yourself in the counsel of your own heart, that your being be not torn in pieces as a bowl. You shall consume your leaves and lose your fruit, and leave yourself as a dry tree. A wicked being shall destroy he who possesses, and shall cause him to be laughed to scorn by his enemies. Sweet words shall multiply friends, and a favorable tongue shall increase kind greetings. So be at peace with many, but have just one counselor in 1,000. If you would get a friend, prove him first, and do not be hasty to trust him. For a certain man is a friend for his own occasion, and shall not remain in the day of your trouble. And there is a friend, who being turned to enmity shall cause strife and uncover your reproach. Again, there's a friend, a companion at the table, but shall not continue in the day of your affliction. When you are prosperous, he shall be as you are, and shall be bold over your servants. If you are brought low, he shall be against you, and shall hide himself from your face. Separate yourself from your enemies, and be on guard with your friends. A trustworthy friend is a strong defense, and he who has found such a one has found a treasure. There is none that makes up for a trustworthy friend, and his worth is invaluable. A trustworthy friend is the healing of life, and those who revere Yahuwah shall find him. Whoever reveres Yahuwah directs his friendship well, for as he is, so shall his neighbor be also. My son, gather instruction from your youth onward. You shall gain wisdom till your old age. Come to her as one that plows and sows, and wait for her good fruit. For you shall not toil much in laboring over her, but you shall eat of her fruit soon enough. She is very unpleasant to the unlearned. He who is without understanding shall not remain with her. She shall lay upon him as a mighty stone of trial, and he shall throw her from him before long. For wisdom is according to her name, and she is not revealed to many. Listen, my son, receive my advice, and do not refuse my counsel, and put your feet into her shackles, and your neck into her chain. Bow down your shoulder and bear her. do not be grieved with her bonds. Come to her with your whole heart, and guard her ways with all your strength. Search and seek, and she shall be made known unto you. And when you've taken hold of her, do not let her go, for in the end you shall find her rest, and that shall turn out for your joy. Then her shackles shall be a strong defense for you, and her chains a robe of esteem. For there's a golden ornament upon her, and her bands are purple lace. You shall put her on as a robe of esteem, and shall lay her upon you as a crown of joy. My son, if you allow, you shall be taught, and if you apply your mind, you shall be clever. If you love to listen, you shall receive understanding, and if you bow your ear, you shall be wise. Stand in the group of the elders, and cling to he who is wise. Be willing to hear every worthy discourse, and do not let the parables of understanding escape you. And if you see a man of understanding, get yourself to him early, and let your feet wear out his doorstep. Let your mind be upon the laws of Yahuwah, and consider his commands continually. He shall establish your heart, and give you the wisdom you desire. Chapter 7. Do no evil, so no harm shall come to you. Depart from the unrighteous, and evil shall turn away from you. My son, do not sow upon the furrows of unrighteousness, and you shall not reap them sevenfold. Do not seek superiority from Yahuwah, neither of the royal seat of esteem. Do not declare yourself right before Yahuwah, and do not boast of your wisdom before the sovereign. Do not seek to be judge, being unable to remove evil, lest at any time you be partial to the mighty, a stumbling block in the way of your uprightness. Do not cause the crowd of a city to stumble, then you shall not be brought low among the people. Do not bind one sin upon another, for not one shall go unpunished. Do not say, Elohim shall look upon the multitudes of my offerings, and when I offer to the Most High Elohim, he shall accept it. Do not be faint-hearted when you make your prayer, and do not neglect to give in kindness. Mock no man in the bitterness of his being, for there is one who humbles and exalts. Do not plan a lie against your brother, neither do likewise to your friend. Refuse to make any manner of a lie, for the way of this is not good. Do not use many words among a multitude of elders, and do not make much babbling when you pray. Do not hate laborious work, neither the work of the land, which the Most High has ordained. Do not number yourself among the crowd of sinners, but remember that wrath shall not delay. Humble yourself greatly, for the punishment of the wicked is fire and worms. Do not exchange a friend for goods by any means, neither a trustworthy brother for the gold of Ophir. Do not forsake a wise and good woman, for her favor is above gold. When your servant works trustworthily, do not mistreat him, nor the hired man that gives himself completely for you. Let your being love a good servant, and do not withhold his freedom. Do you have cattle? Keep an eye on them, and if they are for your profit, keep them with you. Do you have children? Instruct them, and bow their neck from their youth. Do you have daughters? Look after their body, and do not be too generous towards them. Give your daughter in marriage, and you shall have performed a weighty matter. But give her to a man of understanding. Do you have a wife in mind? Do not forsake her, and do not give yourself over to an easy woman. Esteem your father with your whole heart, and do not forget the sorrows of your mother. Remember that you were brought forth by them, and how would you repay them what they have done for you? Revere Yahuwah with all your being, and revere his priests. Love he who made you with all your strength, and do not forsake his servants. Revere Yahuwah and honor the priests, and give him his portion, as it is commanded you, the first fruits and the guilt offering and the wave offering, and the set-apart offering, and the first fruits of the set-apartness. And stretch out your hand to the poor, that your blessing may be perfected. A gift has favor in the sight of every living man, and do not hold back for the dead. Do not fail to accompany those who weep, and mourn with those who mourn. Do not be slow to visit the sick, for that shall cause you to be loved. Whatever you take in hand, remember the end, and you shall never do wrong. Do not strive with a mighty man, lest you fall into his hands. Do not quarrel with a wealthy man, lest he outweigh you. For gold has destroyed many, and twisted the hearts of sovereigns. Do not strive with a man that is a babbler, and do not heap wood upon his fire. Do not jest with a rude man, lest your ancestors be shamed. Do not reproach a man that turns from sin, but remember that we are all worthy of punishment. Do not shame a man in his old age, for even some of us grow old. Do not rejoice over the death of your greatest enemy, but remember that we all die. Do not despise the discourse of the wise, but acquaint yourself with their proverbs. For from them you shall learn instruction, and how to serve great men with ease. Do not avoid the discourse of the elders, for they also learn from their fathers. And from them you shall learn understanding, and to give answer as needed. Do not kindle the coals of a sinner, lest you be burned with the flame of his fire. Do not rise up at the presence of an insulter, lest he lie in wait to entrap you in your words. Do not lend to he who is mightier than yourself, for if you lend to him, count it but lost. Do not be a guarantor above your ability, for if you be guarantor, take care to pay it. Do not go to law against a judge, for they shall judge for him according to his esteem. Do not travel on the way with one who is headstrong, lest he become burdensome to you. For he shall do according to his own desire, and you shall perish with him through his folly. Do not strive with a man of wrath, and do not go with him to a lonely place. For bloodshed is as naught in his sight, and where there is no help, he shall overthrow you. Do not counsel a fool, for he does not heed advice. Do not speak secrets before a stranger, for you do not know what he shall reveal. Do not open your heart to every man, lest he repay you craftily. Chapter 9. Do not be jealous over the wife of your bosom, and do not teach her an evil lesson against yourself. Do not give yourself to a woman to trample your strength. Do not go into a whore, lest you fall into her snares. Do not keep company with a flirtatious woman, lest you be taken by her attempts. Do not stare upon a maiden, so you do not fall by that which is precious in her. Do not give yourself to whores, so that you do not lose your inheritance. Do not look about in the streets of the city, neither wander its lonely places. Turn your eye away from a good-looking woman, and do not look upon another's loveliness. For many have been deceived by the loveliness of a woman, for desire is kindled by it like a fire. Do not sit at all with another man's wife, nor sit down with her in your arms, and do not spend your silver with her on wine, lest your heart incline towards her, and so, through your desire, fall into destruction. Do not forsake an old friend, for the new is not comparable to him. A new friend is like new wine. When it is old, you shall drink it with pleasure. Do not envy the esteem of a sinner, for you do not know what his end shall be. Do not delight in that which the wicked have pleasure in, but remember they shall not go unpunished to their grave. Keep far from the man who has power to kill, so the fear of death shall not concern you. If you encounter him, make no mistake, lest he take away your life immediately. Remember that you walk in the midst of snares, and that you walk upon the walls of the city. When you draw near, reason with your neighbor, and consult with the wise. Let your words be with the wise, and all your talk in the law of the Most High. And let righteous men eat and drink with you, and let your esteem be in the reverence of Yahuwah. For the hand of the craftsman, the work shall be praised, and the wise ruler of the people for his words. A man of an evil tongue is dangerous in his city, and he who is hasty with his words shall be hated. Chapter 10. A wise judge shall instruct his people, and the reign of a clever man is well ordered. As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers. And what manner of man the ruler of this city is, sure are all those who dwell in it. An unwise sovereign destroys his people, but through the insight of those who are in authority the city shall be inhabited. The power of the earth is in the hand of Yahuwah, and in due time he shall appoint it to one who is worthy. The prosperity of man is in the hand of Elohim, and he shall lay his esteem upon the face of the scribe. Do not bear hatred against your neighbor for every wrong, and do not act as an insulter at all. For pride is hateful before Elohim and man, and against both one commits wickedness. Because of unrighteous dealings, maltreatment, and wealth gained by deceit, the rule is transferred from one people to another. How could earth and ashes be proud? There is none more wicked than a covetous man, for such a one puts his own being up for sale. For while he lives, he destroys his inner being. The physician ends a long disease, and he who is a sovereign today shall die tomorrow. For when a man is dead, he shall inherit insects, creatures, and worms. The beginning of pride is when one departs from Elohim, and his heart is turned away from his Maker. For pride is the beginning of sin, and he who has it shall pour out abominations. And therefore Yahuwah brings upon them unknown calamity, and overthrows them completely. Yahuwah has thrown down the thrones of proud princes, and appointed the meek in their place. Yahuwah has plucked up the roots of the proud nations, and planted the lowly in their place. Yahuwah overthrew the lands of the Gentiles, and destroyed them to the foundations of the earth. He took some of them away and destroyed them, and has caused their remembrance to cease from the earth. Pride was not made for man, nor violent wrath for those who are born of woman. Those who revere Yahuwah are a continual seed, and those who love him an esteemed plant. Those who disregard the law are a shameful seed, and those who transgress the commands are a deceptive seed. Among brothers, he who is chief is esteemed. So are those who revere Yahuwah in his eyes. The reverence of Yahuwah goes before the obtaining of authority, but stubbornness and pride is the loss of it. Whether he is wealthy, noble, or poor, their esteem is the reverence of Yahuwah. It is not right to despise the poor who has understanding, neither is it proper to exalt a sinner. Great men and judges and rulers shall be esteemed, yet there's none greater than he who reveres Yahuwah. Those who are free shall do service to the servant that is wise, and those who has knowledge shall not grumble when he is instructed. Do not be over wise in doing your business, and do not boast in the time of your distress. Better is he who labors and overflows in all, than he who boasts and lacks bread. My son, esteem your being in meekness, and give it respect according to its quality. Who shall declare right he who sins against his own being? And who shall esteem he who shames his own life? The poor man is esteemed for his skill, and the wealthy man is esteemed for his wealth. He who is esteemed in poverty, how much more in wealth? And he who is ashamed in wealth, how much more in poverty? Chapter 11. Wisdom lifts up the head of he who is of low degree, and makes him to sit among great men. Do not commend a man for his good looks, neither despise a man for his outward appearance. The bee is little among those that fly, but her fruit is the first of that which is sweet. Do not boast of your garments and clothes, and do not exalt yourself in the day of esteem. For the works of Yahuwah are wondrous, and his works among men are hidden. Many sovereigns have sat down on the ground, and one that was never considered has worn the crown. Many mighty men have been greatly ashamed, and those esteemed delivered into other men's hands. Do not accuse before you have examined the truth. Understand first, and then reprove. Do not answer before you have heard the case, neither interrupt men in the middle of speaking. Do not strive in a matter that does not concern you, and do not sit in judgment with sinners. My son, do not engage in many matters, for if you strive greatly, you shall not be innocent. And if you pursue, you shall not obtain, neither shall you escape by fleeing. There is one who labors and struggles and hurries and is so much more behind. Again, there's another that is slow and needs help, lacking skill and full of poverty. Yet the eye of Yahuwah looks upon him for good and raises him up from his humiliation and lifts his head from misery, so that many see his peace over all this. Prosperity and adversity, life and death, poverty and wealth come from Yahuwah. Wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the law are of Yahuwah. Love and the way of good works are from him. Sin and darkness had their beginning together with sinners, and evil shall grow old with those who boast in them. The gift of Yahuwah remains with the righteous, and his favor brings peace forever. There is he who grows wealthy by his cunning and frugality, and this is the portion of his reward. For he says, I have found rest, and now shall eat continually of my goods. And yet he does not know what event shall come upon him, and that he must leave those to others and die. Be steadfast in your agreement, and be acquainted with it, and grow old in your work. Do not marvel at the works of sinners, but trust in Yahuwah, and continue in your labor. For it is light in the eyes of Yahuwah to suddenly make a poor man wealthy. The blessing of Yahuwah is in the reward of the reverent, and suddenly he makes his blessing flourish. Do not say, what profit is there of my service, and what good shall I have afterward? Again, do not say, I have enough and possess much, and what evil shall come to me afterward? In the day of good, there is a forgetfulness of affliction, and in the day of affliction, there is no remembrance of good. For it is light for Yahuwah to reward a man according to his ways on the day of death. The affliction of an hour makes a man forget pleasure, and in the end his deeds shall be exposed. Judge none blessed before his death, for a man shall be known in his children. Do not bring every man into your house, for the deceitful man has many schemes. As a partridge taken in a cage, so is the heart of the proud, and as a spy he watches for your fall. For he lies in wait and turns good into evil, and in that which is worthy of praise shall accuse you. From a spark of fire a heap of coals is kindled, and a sinful man lays in wait for blood. Take heed of an evildoer, for he works wickedness, lest he bring upon you an everlasting stain. Receive a stranger into your house, and he shall disturb you, and turn you out of your own. Chapter 12. When you do good, know to whom you do it, so you shall be thanked for your good works. Do good to the upright, and you shall find a recompense, and if not from him, even from the Most High. No good shall come to he who is always occupied with evil, nor to he who does no kind deed. Give to the upright man, and do not help a sinner. Do good to he who is lowly, but do not give to the wicked. Withhold your bread, and do not give it to him, lest he overthrow you by it. For you shall receive twice as much evil for all the good you have done to him. For the Most High hates sinners, and shall repay the wicked with retribution, and keeps them for the great day of their punishment. Give to the good, and do not help the sinner. A friend cannot be known in good times, and an enemy cannot be hidden in adversity. In the prosperity of a man, enemies shall be grieved, but in his adversity even a friend shall turn away. Never trust your enemy, for as iron rusts, so is his wickedness. Though he humbles himself and comes bowed down, yet be on your guard and beware of him, and be to him as if you had wiped a mirror, and you shall know that its tarnish has not been wiped away altogether. Do not put him near you, lest when he's overthrown you, he stands in your place. Neither let him sit at your right hand, lest he seek to take your seat, and you remember my words in the end, and be pierced by them. Who shall pity a charmer that is bitten by a serpent, or any who comes near wild beasts? So one that goes to a sinner, and is defiled by him in his sins, who shall pity? For a while he shall remain with you, but if you begin to fall, he shall not wait. As enemies speak sweetly with his lips, but in his heart he imagines how to throw you into a pit. He weeps with his eyes, but if he finds opportunity, he shall not be satisfied with blood. If adversity comes upon you, you shall find him there first, and though he pretends to help you, even so he shall wrong you. He shall shake his head and clap his hands, and whisper much, and change his face. Chapter 13. He who handles tar is made unclean by it, and he who has fellowship with a proud man shall be like him. Do not burden yourself above your strength while you live, and have no fellowship with one who is mightier and wealthier than yourself. For how is the kettle and the earthen pot in agreement? For if the one be struck against the other, it shall be broken. The wealthy man has done wrong, and yet he threatens all. The poor is wrong, and he must also plead. If you profit him, he shall use you, but if you have not, he shall forsake you. If you possess whatever, he shall live with you. He shall also leave you naked, and shall not be sorry for it. If he has need of you, he shall deceive you, and smile at you, and have you in expectancy. He shall speak smooth words to you, and say, "What do you need?" And he shall shame you with his delicacies, until he has drained you dry 2 or 3 times. And in the end he shall mock you afterwards. When he sees you, he shall forsake you, and shake his head at you. Beware that you are not deceived and brought down in your rejoicing. And if you are invited by a mighty man, withdraw yourself, and he shall invite you so much more. Do not push yourself on him, lest you be turned away. Do not stand far off, lest you be forgotten. Do not be eager to be equal with him in speech, and do not believe his many words. For with much talk he shall persuade you, and smiling at you shall draw out your secrets. But cruelly he shall lay up your words, and not spare to do you harm, and deliver you up. Observe, and be on your guard, for you walk in danger of being overthrown. When you hear these, awake from your sleep. Love Yahuwah all your life, and call upon him for your deliverance. Every beast loves its kind, and every man loves his neighbor. All flesh associates according to kind, and a man shall cling to those like himself. What fellowship has the wolf with the lamb? So the sinner with the righteous. What agreement is there between the hyena and a dog? And what peace between the wealthy and the poor? As the wild donkey is the lion's prey in the wilderness, so the wealthy eat up the poor. As the proud hate humility, so does the wealthy abhor the poor. A wealthy man beginning to fall is supported by his friends, but a poor man fallen is pushed away by his friends. When a wealthy man is fallen, he has many helpers. He speaks words not to be spoken, and yet men declare him right. The poor man slips, and yet they also rebuke him. He speaks wisely, but is not heeded. When a wealthy man speaks, every man holds his tongue. And look what he says. They exalt it to the clouds. But if the poor man speaks, they say, "What fellow is this?" And if he stumbles, they shall help to overthrow him. Wealth is good to he who has no sin, and poverty is evil in the mouth of the wicked. The heart of a man changes his face, whether it be for good or evil, and a glad heart makes a good face. A good face is a sign of a heart that is good, and the searching out of parables is a wearisome labor of the mind. Chapter 14. Blessed is the man that has not slipped with his mouth, and is not pierced with the great number of sins. Blessed is he whose conscience has not condemned him, and who has not fallen from his expectancy in Yahuwah. Wealth is not fitting for a miser. And what should an envious man do with silver? He who gathers by depriving his own being, gathers for others, that shall spend his goods loosely. He who is evil to himself, to whom shall he be good? He shall not take pleasure in his goods. There is none worse than he who envies himself, and this is to repay for his wickedness. And if he does good, he does it unwillingly. And in the end he shall declare his wickedness. The greedy man has an evil eye. He turns away his face and despises men. A covetous man's eye is not satisfied with his portion, and the wickedness of the wicked dries up his being. A wicked eye is greedy for bread, and he is a miser at his table. My son, according to your ability, do good to yourself, and give Yahuwah his due offering. Remember that death shall not be long in coming, and that the promise of the grave is not revealed to you. Do good to your friend before you die, and according to your ability stretch out your hand and give to him. Do not deprive yourself of a good day, and do not let the share of a good desire overlook you. Shall you not leave your hardships to another, and your labors to be divided by lot? Give and take, and set apart your being, for there is no seeking delicacies in the grave. All flesh grows old as a garment, for the promise from the beginning is, you shall die in death. As the green leaves on a thick tree, some fall and some grow, so is the generation of flesh and blood. One comes to an end, and another is born. Every work rots and eats away, and the worker of it shall go likewise. Blessed is the man who meditates on goodness in wisdom, and thinks upon set-apart matters with his understanding. He who considers her ways in his heart shall also have understanding of her secrets. Go after her as one that follows, and lie in wait on her ways. He who peers in her windows shall also listen at her doors. He who lodges near her house shall also fasten a peg on her walls. He shall pitch his tent near to her, and shall lodge in a lodging where goodness is. He shall put his children under her shelter, and shall lodge under her branches. By her he shall be uncovered from heat, and in her esteem he shall dwell. Chapter 15. He who reveres Yahuwah shall do good, and he who has the knowledge of the law shall obtain her. And as a mother she shall meet him, and receive him as a wife married in maidenhood. With the bread of understanding she shall feed him, and give him the water of wisdom to drink. He shall be visited by her, and shall not be moved, and shall rely on her, and shall not be ashamed. She shall exalt him above his neighbors, and she shall open his mouth in the midst of the assembly. He shall find joy and a crown of gladness, and she shall cause him to inherit an everlasting name. But foolish men shall not obtain her, and sinners shall not see her, for she is far from pride, and men that are liars cannot remember her. Praise is not fitting for the mouth of a sinner, for it was not sent to him by Yahuwah. For praise shall be uttered in wisdom, and Yahuwah shall make it prosper. Do not say, it is because of Yahuwah that I fell away, for you ought not to do that which he hates. Do not say, he has caused me to stray, for he has no need of the sinful man. Yahuwah hates all abomination. Those who revere Elohim do not love it. He himself made man from the beginning and left him in the hand of his own counsel. So you shall guard the commands and act trustworthily. He has put fire and water before you. Stretch out your hand to which you choose. Life and death is before man, and what he chooses shall be given him. For the wisdom of Yahuwah is great, and he is mighty in power, and sees all, and his eyes are upon those who revere him, and he knows every work of man. He has commanded no man to do wickedly, neither has he given any man permission to sin. Chapter 16. Do not desire a great number of worthless children, neither delight in wicked sons. Though they increase, do not rejoice in them, unless the reverence of Yahuwah is with them. Do not trust them in living, neither regard their great number. For one that is righteous is better than 1,000, and it is better to die without children than to have those who are wicked. For by one that has understanding the city shall be filled, but the offspring of the wicked shall be quickly laid waste. Many such matters I have seen with my eyes, and my ear has heard greater than these. In the assembly of the wicked a fire shall be kindled, and in a rebellious nation wrath is lit on fire. He was not appeased towards the giants of old, who fell in their strength of their foolishness. Neither did he spare the place where Lot sojourned, but loathed them for their pride. He had no compassion for the people of destruction, who were taken away in their sins, nor the 600,000 foot soldiers, who were gathered together in the hardness of their hearts. And if there is one stiff-necked among the people, it is marvel if he escapes unpunished. For kindness and wrath are with him. He is mighty to forgive and to pour out displeasure. As his kindness is great, so is his discipline also. He judges a man according to his works. The sinner shall not escape with his plunder, and the patience of the righteous shall not be defeated. Make room for every act of kindness, for everyone shall receive according to his works. Yahuwah hardened Pharaoh that he should not know him, that his mighty works might be known to the world. His kindness is revealed to every creature, and he has separated his light from the darkness, and is unbreakable. Do not say, I shall hide myself from Yahuwah. Shall any remember me from above? I shall not be remembered among so many people. For what is my being among such a limitless number of creatures? See the heavens and the heavens of heavens, the deep and the earth and all that is in it, shall be moved at his visitation. The mountains and foundations of the earth shall also be shaken with trembling, when Yahuwah looks upon them. No heart may think upon these worthily, and who is able to perceive his ways? It is a whirlwind that no man sees, for most of his works are hidden. Who shall declare the works of his righteousness, or who shall endure them? For his decree is far off, and the trial of all is at the end. He who lacks understanding shall think upon emptiness, and a foolish man straying plots foolishness. My son, listen to me, and learn knowledge, and know my words in your heart. I shall present instruction by measure, and declare his knowledge exactly. The works of Yahuwah are done in right ruling from the beginning, and from the time he made them, he laid out their parts. He decorated his works forever, and in his hands are the beginning of them to all generations. They neither labor nor are weary, nor cease from their works. None of them withholds one another, and they never disobey his word. After this, Yahuwah looked upon the earth and filled it with his blessing. He has covered the face of it with all manner of living creatures, and they shall return to it again. Chapter 17. Yahuwah created man from the earth, and returns him to it again. He gave them few days and a short time, and also authority over that within it. He gave them strength within themselves, and made them according to his image, and put the fear of man upon all flesh, and gave him rule over beasts and birds. They received the use of the 5 senses of Yahuwah, and in the 6th place he gave them understanding, and in the 7th speech an interpreter of thoughts, counsel, and a tongue, and eyes, ears, and a heart. He gave them to understand. He filled them with knowledge of understanding, and showed them good and evil. He put his eye on their hearts, that he might show them the greatness of his works. He appointed them to boast in his marvelous deeds forever, that they might declare his works with understanding. And the elect shall praise his set-apart name. Besides this, he gave them knowledge, and the law of life for an inheritance. He made an everlasting covenant with them, and gave them his right rulings. Their eyes saw the excellence of his esteem, and their ears heard his esteemed voice. And he said to them, Beware of all unrighteousness. And he gave every man command concerning his neighbor. Their ways are ever before him, and shall not be hid from his eyes. Every man from his youth is given to evil. Neither could they make hearts of flesh for themselves from stony. For in the divisions of the nations of the whole earth he appointed a ruler over every people. But Yisrael is the portion of Yahuwah, whom being his firstborn, he nourishes with discipline, and giving him the light of his love does not forsake him. Therefore all their works are as the sun before him, and his eyes are continually upon their ways. None of their unrighteous deeds are hid from him, but all their sins are before Yahuwah. But Yahuwah, showing favor and knowing his workmanship, neither left nor forsook them, but spared them. The kind deeds of a man are as a signet with him, and he shall guard the good deeds of man as the apple of his eye, and give repentance to his sons and daughters. Afterwards he shall rise up and reward them, and render their recompense upon their heads. And to those who repent, he provides a return, and comforts those whose expectancy is failing. Return to Yahuwah, and leave your sins. Make your prayer before his face, and be guiltless. Turn again to the Most High, and turn away from wickedness. For he shall lead you out of darkness into the light of peace, and intensely hate your abominations. Who shall praise the Most High in the grave, except for those who live and give thanks? Thanksgiving perishes from the dead, as from one who is not. The living and perfect in heart shall praise Yahuwah. How great is the kindness of Yahuwah our Elohim, and his compassion to those who turn to him in set-apartness. For not all is within man, for the Son of Man is not incorruptible. What is brighter than the sun, yet its light fails? So flesh and blood shall imagine evil. He views the power of the height of the heavens, and all men are but dust and ashes. Chapter 18. He who lives forever has created all in its entirety. Yahuwah alone is righteous, and there is no other but he, who guides the world with the palm of his hand, and all obey his desire. For he is the sovereign of all by his power, dividing the set apart from among the profane. To whom has he given his power to declare his works? And who shall find out his noble acts? Who shall measure the strength of his excellence? And who shall tell of his kindnesses? As for the wondrous works of Yahuwah, there is naught taken from them, nor any that are compared to them, nor may the expanse of them be found out. When a man is finished, then one begins, and when he leaves, then he shall be uncertain. What is man, and what use is he? What is his good, and what is his evil? The number of a man's days at the greatest are 100 years. As a drop of water into the sea and a grain compared to the sand, so are 1,000 years to everlasting days. Therefore Elohim is patient with them and pours out his kindness upon them. He looked and saw their end to be evil. Therefore he multiplied his compassion. The kindness of man is towards his neighbor, but the kindness of Yahuwah is upon all flesh. He reproves and disciplines and teaches and turns them back again, as a shepherd his flock. He has kindness on those who receive discipline and who diligently seek after his right rulings. My son, do not blemish your good deeds, nor use harsh words when you give. Does the dew not relieve the heat? So a word is better than a gift. Look, is a word not better than a gift? But both are with one showing kindness. A fool shall reproach harshly, and a gift of the selfish consumes the eyes. Learn before you speak, and use healing if you are ever sick. Before judgment examine yourself, and in the day of visitation you shall find kindness. Humble yourself before you become sick, and in the time of sins show repentance. Let not hinder you to pay your vow in due time, and do not delay till death to be declared right. Before you pray, prepare yourself, and do not be as one that tries Yahuwah. Think upon the wrath that shall be in the end, and the time of vengeance, when he turns away his face. When you have enough, remember the time of hunger. When you are wealthy, think upon poverty and need. From the morning until the evening, the times change, and all are soon done before Yahuwah. A wise man shall revere in every matter. In the day of sinning he shall be aware of trespass. But a fool does not observe time. Every man of understanding knows wisdom, and shall bless he who finds her. Those who have understanding in words also become wise themselves, and pour forth splendid parables. Do not pursue your lusts, but restrain yourself from your appetites. If you give your being the desire that it pleases, it shall make you a mockery to your enemies that slander you. Do not revel in excessive pleasure, nor be bound by its expense. Do not become a beggar by feasting through borrowing, when you have naught in your purse, for you shall be lying in wait for your own life, and be plotted upon. Chapter 19. A laborer that is given to drunkenness shall not be wealthy, and he who despises small matters shall fall little by little. Wine and women shall cause men of understanding to fall away, and he who clings to whores shall become hardened. Moths and worms shall have him to inherit, and a bold man shall be taken away. He who is hasty to give credit is light-minded, and he who sins corrupts his own being. Whoever takes pleasure in wickedness shall be condemned, but he who resists pleasures crowns his life. He who rules his tongue shall live without strife, and he who hates gossip shall have less evil. Do not repeat to another that which is told to you, and you shall not suffer harm. Whether to friend or enemy, do not speak of another man's life. And if you may, without offense, do not reveal them. For if he hears and sees you, so in time to come he shall hate you. If you've heard a word, let it die with you, and be brave. It shall not burst you. A fool struggles with a word, as a woman in labor with a child, as an arrow that sticks in a man's thigh. So is a word inside a fool. Admonish a friend. It may be that he has not done it, and if he's not done it, that he does it no more. Admonish your friend. It may be he has not said it, and if he has, that he does not speak it again. Admonish a friend, for many times it is slander, and do not believe every whisper. There is one that slips in his speech, but not from his heart. And who is he who has not offended with his tongue? Admonish your neighbor before you threaten him, and not being wroth, give place to the law of the Most High. The reverence of Yahuwah is the beginning of acceptance, and wisdom obtains his love. The knowledge of the commands of Yahuwah is the instruction of life, and those who do that which pleases him shall receive the fruit of the tree of immortality. The reverence of Yahuwah is complete wisdom, and in all wisdom is the doing of the law, and the knowledge of his mightiness. If a servant says to his master, I shall not do as it pleases you, though afterward he does it, he angers him who feeds him. The knowledge of wickedness is not wisdom, nor at any time is insight the counsel of sinners. There is a wickedness, and such is an abomination, and there is a fool lacking in wisdom. He who has little understanding and reveres Elohim is better than the one that has much wisdom and transgresses the law of the Most High. There is a delicate craftiness, and the same is unrighteous, and there's one that turns aside to make judgment appear. There's a wise man that speaks rightly in judgment. There's a wicked man that bows his head sadly, but inwardly he is full of deceit, casting down his face and making as if he did not hear. Where he is unknown, he shall do you evil before you are aware. And if for need of power he may cease from sinning, yet when he finds opportunity he shall do evil. A man may be known by his appearance, and one that has understanding by his face when you meet him. A man's dress and excessive laughter and walk reveal what is. Chapter 20. There is a reproof that is not proper. Again, some man holds his tongue, and he is wise. It is much better to reprove than to be wroth secretly. And he who confesses his wrong shall be preserved from harm. How good it is when you are reproved to show repentance, for so you shall escape deliberate sin. As is the lust of a eunuch to defile a maiden, so is he who executes judgment with violence. There is one that keeps silent and is found wise, and another by much babbling becomes hated. Some man holds his tongue because he has no answer, and some keep silent, knowing his time. A wise man shall hold his tongue till he sees opportunity, but a babbler and a fool shall regard no time. He who uses many words shall be loathed, and he who takes authority for himself in this shall be hated. There is a sinner that has good success in evil, and there is a gain that turns to loss. There is a gift that shall not profit you, and there's a gift whose recompense is double. There is he who is shamed because of esteem, and there is he who lifts up his head from a low estate. There is he who buys much for a little, but repays it sevenfold. A wise man by his words makes him beloved, but the favors of fools shall be poured out. The gift of a fool shall do you no good when you have it, nor that of greedy by necessity, for he looks to receive much for one. He gives little and insults greatly. He opens his mouth as an accuser. Today he lends, and tomorrow he shall ask it again. Such a one is to be hated of Elohim and man. The fool says, I have no friends. I have no thanks for all my good deeds, and those who eat my bread speak evil of me. How often and by how many shall he be mocked? For he does not know what it is to have, and it is all the same to him as if he did not have. To slip upon a pavement is better than to slip with the tongue. So shall the fall of the wicked come speedily. An untimely word shall always be in the mouth of the unwise. A wise word shall be rejected when it comes from the mouth of a fool, for he shall not speak it in its season. There is he who is hindered from sinning through poverty, and when he takes rest he is not troubled. There is he who destroys his own being through shame, and overthrows himself by showing partiality. There is he who promises to his friend from shame, and makes him his enemy for naught. A lie is an unclean stain within a man, yet it is continually in the mouth of the unlearned. A thief is better than a man who is known to lie, but they shall both inherit destruction. The way of a liar is humiliation, and his shame is ever with him. With his words a wise man shall promote himself to esteem, and he who has understanding shall please great men. He who tills his land shall increase his heap, and he who pleases great men shall receive pardon for wrong. Presents and bribes blind the eyes of the wise, and stop up his mouth so he cannot reprove. Wisdom that is hidden, and treasure that is hoarded up, what profit is there in either? Better is he who hides his folly than a man who hides his wisdom. Enduring patience in seeking Yahuwah is better than he who leads his life without a guide. Chapter 21. My son, have you sinned? Do so no more, but ask forgiveness for your former sins. Flee from sin as from the face of a serpent, for if you come too close to it, it shall bite you. The teeth of it are as the teeth of a lion, slaying the beings of men. All wickedness is as a two-edged sword, the wounds of which cannot be healed. Fear and wickedness shall waste wealth, therefore the house of the proud shall be made desolate. A prayer out of a poor man's mouth reaches the ears of Elohim, and his right ruling comes speedily. He who hates to be reproved is in the paths of sinners, but he who reveres Yahuwah shall repent from his heart. A learned man is known far and near, and a man of understanding knows when he slips. He who builds his house with another man's silver is like one that gathers stones for the tomb of his burial. The assembly of the wicked is like tow wrapped together, and their end is a flame of fire to destroy them. The way of sinners is paved with stones, but at the end of it is the pit of Sheol. He who guards the law of Yahuwah gains understanding from it, and the perfect reverence of Yahuwah is wisdom. He who is not wise cannot be taught, but there is a knowledge which multiplies bitterness. The knowledge of a wise man shall increase as a flood, and his counsel is like a pure fountain of life. The inward parts of a fool are like a broken vessel, and he shall hold no knowledge as long as he lives. If a skilled man hears a wise word, he commends it and adds to it. But when one of no understanding hears it, it displeases him and he throws it behind his back. The talking of a fool is like a burden on the way, but favor shall be found in the lips of the wise. They inquire at the mouth of the wise in the assembly, and they shall consider his word in their heart. As is a house that is destroyed, so is wisdom to a fool, and the knowledge of the unwise are words without sense. Instructions to fools is as chains on the feet, and like shackles on the right hand. A fool lifts up his voice with laughter, but a wise man hardly smiles a little. Learning is to a wise man as an ornament of gold, and like a bracelet upon his right arm. The foot of a fool hurries into his house, but a diligent man is ashamed of him. A fool shall peep at the door into the house, but he who is disciplined shall stand outside. It is the disrespect of a man to listen at the door, but a wise man shall be grieved with the shame. The lips of gossipers speak that which does not pertain to them, but the words of those who have understanding are weighed in the balance. The heart of fools is in their mouth, but the mouth of the wise is in their heart. When the wicked curses an adversary, he curses his own being. A whisperer defiles his own being and is hated wherever he dwells. Chapter 22. A lazy man is compared to a filthy stone, and all shall hiss him to shame. An idle man is compared to the filth of a dunghill. Every man that picks it up shall shake off his hand. An undisciplined man is the shame of his father that brought him forth, and a daughter is brought forth to his loss. A wise daughter brings an inheritance to her husband, but she who lives dishonestly is her father's heaviness. She who is bold shames both her father and her husband, and they shall both despise her. An untimely word is music in mourning, but blows and discipline by wisdom are never untimely. Whoever teaches a fool is as one who glues a potsherd together, and as he who wakes one from a sound sleep. He who speaks a word to a fool speaks to one in a slumber. When he has spoken a word, he shall say, "What is this word?" If children live decently and have means, they shall cover the loneliness of their parents. But children being haughty through pride and lacking discipline, stain the nobility of their relatives. Weep for the dead, for he has lost the light, and weep for the fool, for he lacks understanding. Make little weeping for the dead, for he is at rest. But the life of the fool is worse than death. 7 days men shall mourn for the dead, but all the days of his life for a fool and a wicked man. Do not speak much with a fool, and do not go to he who has no understanding. Beware of him, lest you have trouble, and you shall never be defiled with his foolishness. Depart from him, and you shall find rest, and never be worried with madness. What is heavier than lead, and what is its name but a fool? Sand and salt and a mass of iron is easier to bear than a man without understanding. As timber girded and bound together in a building cannot be loosed with shaking, so the heart that is established by wise counsel shall fear at no time. A heart rested upon a thought of understanding is as lovely plastering on the wall of a gallery. Fences put on a high place shall never stand against the wind, so a fearful heart in the mind of a fool cannot stand against any fear. He who pricks the eye makes tears fall, and he who pricks the heart makes it show her knowledge. Whoever throws a stone at the birds frightens them away, and he who reproaches his friend breaks a friendship. Though you draw a sword against your friend, yet do not despair, for there may be a returning. If you have opened your mouth against your friend, do not fear, for there may be an atonement. Except for reproach, or pride, or disclosing secrets, or a deadly wound. For these matters every friend shall depart. Be trustworthy to your neighbor in his poverty, that you may rejoice in his prosperity. Remain steadfast with him in the time of his distress, that you may be heir with him in his inheritance. For a poor position is not always to be despised, nor the wealthy, who are foolish to be held in admiration. As the clouds and smoke of a furnace go before the fire, so reviling before blood. I shall not be ashamed to defend a friend, nor shall I hide myself from him. But if any evil comes upon me because of him, every one that hears it shall be aware of him. Who shall appoint a guard before my mouth, and a seal of wisdom upon my lips, so I do not suddenly fall by them, and that my tongue does not destroy me? Chapter 23. O Yahuwah, Father and Master of all my life, do not leave me to their counsels, and do not let me fall by them. Who shall appoint whips over my thoughts, and the discipline of my wisdom over my heart, that they do not spare me for my ignorances, and does not pass by my sins, lest my ignorance increase and my sins multiply to my destruction, and I fall before my adversaries, and my enemies rejoice over me, whose expectancy is far from your kindness. O Yahuwah, Father and Elohim of my life, do not give me a proud look, but always turn your servants away from a haughty mind. Turn me away from worthless expectation and lust, and you hold up he who desires to always serve you. Do not let the gluttony of the stomach nor the lust of the flesh take hold of me, and do not give me your servant over to a hardened heart. Hear, O you children, the instruction of the mouth. He who guards it shall never be overtaken with his lips. The sinner shall be left in his foolishness. Both the speaker of evil and the proud shall fall by it. Do not accustom your mouth to swearing, nor use the name of the set-apart one. For as a servant that is continually beaten shall not be without a bruise, so he who swears, naming Elohim continually, shall not be guiltless. A man that swears much is filled with wickedness, and the plague shall never depart from his house. If he transgresses, his sin shall be upon him. And if he does not acknowledge his sin, he commits a double offense. And if he swears in vain, he shall not be innocent, but his house shall be filled with calamities. There is a word that is clothed with death. Elohim grant that it not be found in the inheritance of Jacob. For all such matters shall be far from the reverent, and they shall not wallow in their sins. Do not use your mouth to swear rashly, for in these words there is sin. Remember your father and your mother when you sit among great men, and do not be forgetful before them, and so, by your habit, become a fool, and wish that you had not been born, and curse the day of your birth. The man who is accustomed to insulting words shall never be instructed all the days of his life. 2 kinds of men multiply sin, and the third shall bring wrath. A heated spirit, as a burning fire, shall never be quenched till it is consumed. One who whores in the body of his flesh shall never cease till he has kindled a fire. All bread is sweet to those who whore. He does not cease till he dies. An adulterer says thus in his heart, Who sees me? I am surrounded with darkness. The walls cover me, and no one sees me. What do I need to fear? The Most High shall not remember my sins. Such a man only fears the eyes of men, and does not know that the eyes of Yahuwah are 10,000 times brighter than the sun, watching all the ways of men, and observing the most secret places. He knew all when they were created, so after they were accomplished he looked upon them all. This man shall be punished in the streets of the city, and he shall be taken where he does not suspect. So it shall be also for the wife that leaves her husband, and brings forth an heir by another. For firstly, she has disobeyed the law of the Most High, and secondly, she has trespassed against her own husband. And thirdly, she has committed whoring by adultery, and brought forth children by another man. She shall be brought out into the assembly, and inquiry shall be made of her children. Her children shall not take root, and her branches shall not bring forth fruit. She shall leave a cursed remembrance, and her reproach shall not be blotted out. And those who remain shall know that there is none better than the reverence of Yahuwah, and that there is nothing sweeter than to guard the commands of Yahuwah. It is great esteem to follow Yahuwah, and to be accepted by him is long life. Chapter 24. Wisdom shall praise herself and be esteemed in the midst of her people. In the assembly of the Most High she opens her mouth and overcomes before his power. I came out of the mouth of the Most High and covered the earth as a cloud. I dwelt in high places, and my throne is in a cloudy pillar. I alone surrounded the circuit of the heavens and walked in the bottom of the deep, in the waves of the sea and in all the earth, and in every people and nation I obtained a possession. With all these I sought rest, and in whose inheritance shall I remain? So the Creator of all gave me a command, and he who made me gave me rest for my tent and said, Let your dwelling be in Jacob, and your inheritance in Israel. He created me from the beginning, before the world, and I shall never fail. In the set-apart tabernacle I served before him, and so I was established in Zion. Likewise, in the beloved city he gave me rest, and in Jerusalem was my strength. And I took root in an established people, even in the portion of the inheritance of Yahuwah. I was exalted like a cedar in Lebanon, and as a cypress upon the mountains of Hermon. I was exalted like a palm tree in En-Gedi, and as a rosebush in Jericho, as a fair olive tree in a pleasant field, and grew as a fig tree by the water. I gave a sweet smell like cinnamon and rosewood, and I yielded a pleasant fragrance like the best myrrh, and galbanum, and shocham, and fragrant gum, and as the fragrance of frankincense in the Mishkan, as the cypress I stretched out my branches, and my branches are the branches of esteem and favor. As the vine I brought forth a pleasant fragrance, and my flowers are the fruit of esteem and wealth. I am the mother of pleasant love and reverence and knowledge and set-apart expectancy. I, therefore, being of old, am given to all my children who are named by him. Come to me, all you who desire me, and fill yourself with my fruit. For my remembrance is sweeter than honey, and my inheritance than the honeycomb. Those who eat of me shall hunger for more, and those who drink me shall thirst for more. He who obeys me shall never be ashamed, and those who work beside me shall not do wrong. All these are the book of the covenant of the Most High Elohim, even the law which Moshe commanded for an inheritance to the congregation of Jacob. Do not lose heart, but be strong in Yahuwah, that he may confirm you. Cling to him, for Yahuwah Almighty is Elohim alone, and beside him there is no other Savior. He fills all with his wisdom, as Pishon and as Hiddekai in the time of first fruits. He makes understanding to abound like Parath, and as Yarden in the time of the harvest. He makes the instruction of knowledge appear as the light, and as Gihon in the time of grape harvest. The first man did not know her fully, nor shall the last find her out, for her thoughts are more than the sea, and her counsels deeper than the great deep. I also came out as a wadi from a river, and as a channel into a garden. I said, I shall water my best garden, and shall water my garden bed very much. And see, my wadi became a river, and my river became a sea. I shall yet make instruction to shine as the morning, and shall send forth her light far away. I shall yet pour out instruction as prophecy, and leave it to all ages forever. See that I have not labored for myself only, but for all those who seek wisdom. Chapter 25. In 3 matters I was adorned, and stood in loveliness, both before Elohim and man: the oneness of brothers, the love of neighbors, and a man and wife that agree together. 3 sorts of men my being hates. I greatly loathe of their life: a poor man who is proud, a wealthy man who is a liar, and an old adulterer who is foolish. If you've gathered nothing in your youth, How shall you find any matter in your old age? Oh, how lovely is judgment for gray hairs, and for the aged to know counsel. Oh, how lovely is the wisdom of old men, and understanding and counsel in men of esteem. Much experience is the crown of old men, and the reverence of Elohim is their esteem. There are 9 which I have judged in my heart to be blessed, and the 10th I shall relate with my tongue. A man that has joy from his children, and he who lives to see the fall of his enemy. Good is he who dwells with a wife of understanding, and that has not slipped with his tongue, and that has not served a man more unworthy than himself. Good is he who has found insight, and he who speaks in the ears of those who listen. Oh, how great is he who finds wisdom, yet there's none above he who reveres Yahuwah. But the love of Yahuwah passes all in understanding. He who possesses it, to what shall he be likened? The reverence of Yahuwah is the beginning of his love, and the belief is the beginning of clinging to him. Any wound but a wound of the heart, and any wickedness but the wickedness of a woman, and any affliction but the affliction from those who hate me, and any revenge but the revenge of enemies. There is no venom above the venom of a serpent, and there is no wrath above the wrath of an enemy. I would rather dwell with a lion and a dragon than to dwell in a house with a wicked woman. The wickedness of a woman changes her appearance and darkens her face like sackcloth. Her husband shall sit among his neighbors, and listening, he shall sigh bitterly. All wickedness is but little to the wickedness of a woman. Let the portion of a sinner fall upon her. As the climbing of a sandy way is to the feet of the aged, so is a wife full of words to a quiet man. Do not stumble at the loveliness of a woman, and do not desire her for pleasure. A woman supporting her husband is full of wrath, hardness, and much reproach. A wicked woman causes courage to cease, causes a heavy face and a wounded heart. A woman that does not comfort her husband in distress causes weak hands and feeble knees. From the woman came the beginning of sin, and because of her we all die. Give water no outlet, nor a wicked woman freedom to roam. If she does not do as you would have her, cut her off from yourself, and give her a certificate of divorce, and let her go. Chapter 26. Blessed is the man that has a capable wife, for the number of his days shall be double. A capable woman gladdens her husband, and he shall fill the years of his life in peace. A good wife is a good portion, which shall be given in the portion of those who revere Yahuwah. Whether a man is wealthy or poor, if he has a good heart towards Yahuwah, he shall rejoice at all times with a cheerful face. There are 3 matters that my heart fears, and of the 4th I was very afraid: the slander of a city, the gathering together of an unruly crowd, and of false accusation. All these are worse than death. But a woman that is jealous over another woman is grieving to the heart and sorrow, and a lashing tongue which makes known to all. An evil wife is a yoke shaken to and fro. He who has hold of her is as though he held a scorpion. A drunken and wandering woman causes great wrath, and she does not cover her own shame. The whoring of a woman is known by her haughty looks and eyelids. If your daughter is wayward, keep her straight, lest she abuse herself through too much freedom. Watch over one with a hard eye, and do not marvel if she trespasses against you. She shall open her mouth as a thirsty traveler who has found a fountain, and drink of every water near her. By every hedge she shall sit down, and open her quiver for every arrow. The favor of a wife delights her husband, and her discretion shall fatten his bones. A A silent and loving woman is a gift of Yahuwah, and there is nothing worth as much as a mind well instructed. A humble and trustworthy woman is a double favor, and her sober mind cannot be valued. As the sun when it rises high in the heavens, so is the loveliness of a good wife in the ordering of her house. As the shining light upon the set-apart candlestick, so is the loveliness of the face in ripe age. As the golden stands upon the sockets of silver, so are the lovely feet with a constant heart. My son, guard the flower of your youth well. Do not give your strength to foreigners. When you've acquired a fruitful possession through all the field, sow it with your own seed, trusting in the goodness of your stock. So your relatives, which you leave, are made great, having the confidence of their good genealogy. A whore shall be counted as spittle, but a married woman is a tower against death to her husband. A wicked woman is given as a portion to a wicked man, but a reverent woman is given to he who reveres Yahuwah. A dishonest woman is despised and shamed, but an honest woman shall revere her husband. A headstrong woman shall be counted as a dog, but she that is humble reveres Yahuwah. A woman that esteems her husband shall be judged wise among all, but she that shames him in her pride shall be counted wicked among all. A loud-mouthed woman and a nagger shall be sought out to drive away the enemies. There are two matters that grieve my heart, and the third that makes me wroth. A man of battle that suffers poverty, and men of understanding that are not respected, and one that turns from righteousness to sin. Yahuwah prepares such a one for the sword. A merchant hardly guards himself from doing wrong, and a traitor is not free from sin. Chapter 27. Many have sinned for a small matter, and he who seeks abundance turns his eyes away. As a nail holds fast between the joint of stones, so sin holds close between buying and selling. Unless a man behaves diligently in the reverence of Yahuwah, his house shall soon be overthrown. As when one sifts with a sieve, the refuse remains. So the filth of man is in his words. The furnace tries the potter's vessels, so the trial of man is in his reasoning. The fruit declares if the tree has been cultivated, so is the speaking of pride in the heart of man. Praise no man before you hear him speak, for this is the trial of men. If you follow righteousness, you shall obtain it, and put it on as a long robe of esteem. The birds shall gather with their kind, so shall truth return to those who practice it. As the lion lies in wait for prey, so does sin for those who work wickedness. The words of a reverent man are always with wisdom, but a fool changes as the moon. Watch the time if you're among the foolish, but be continually among men of understanding. The words of fools are troublesome, and their entertainment is the indecency of sin. The words of he who swears much makes the hair stand upright, and their uproar makes one stop his ears. The strife of the proud is bloodshed, and the revilings are grievous to the ear. Whoever uncovers secrets loses his trust, and shall never find a friend of his being. Love your friend, and be trustworthy to him. But if you betray his secrets, never again follow after him. For as a man has destroyed his enemy, so you've lost the love of your neighbor. As one that releases a bird out of his hand, so you have let your neighbor go, and shall not have him again. Do not follow after him, for he is too far off. He's like a gazelle, escaped out of the snare. As for a wound, it may be bound up, and after reviling there may be peace. But he who betrays secrets is without expectancy. He who winks with his eyes works evil, and he who knows him departs from him. When you are present, he shall speak sweetly, and shall admire your words. But in the end, he shall twist his mouth and slander your sayings. I have hated many matters, but nothing like him, for Yahweh shall hate him. Whoever throws a stone high throws it on his own head, and a blow in deceit makes wounds. Whoever digs a pit shall fall into it, and he who lays a trap shall be caught in it. He who does evil, it shall fall upon him, and he shall not know from where it comes. Mockery and reproach are from the proud, but vengeance as a lion lies in wait for them. Those who rejoice at the fall of the righteous shall be taken in the snare, and anguish shall consume them before they die. Evil and wrath, even these are abominations, and the sinful man has them both. Chapter 28. He who is vengeful shall find vengeance from Yahuwah, and he shall surely keep account of his sins. Forgive your neighbor the harm that he has done to you, so your sins shall also be forgiven when you pray. One man bears hatred against another, and should he seek forgiveness from Yahuwah? He shows no kindness to a man who is like himself, and does he ask forgiveness for his own sins? If he who is but flesh maintains hatred, who shall pray forgiveness for his sins? Remember your end, and let enmity cease, corruption and death, and remain in the commands. Remember the commands, and bear no evil against your neighbor. The covenant of the Most High, and overlook faults. Abstain from strife, and you shall diminish your sins. For a man of rage kindles strife. A sinful man disrupts friendships and creates quarrels among those who are at peace. As the structure of the fire, so it burns, and as a man's strength is, so is his wrath. And according to his wealth, his wrath rises, and the stronger they are who contend, the more they shall be inflamed. A hasty quarrel kindles a fire, and hasty fighting sheds blood. If you blow the spark, it shall burn. If you spit upon it, it shall be quenched. And both of these come out of your mouth. Curse the gossiper and the double-tongued, for such have destroyed many who are at peace. A backbiting tongue has troubled many and driven them from nation to nation. It has pulled down strong cities and overthrown the houses of great men. A backbiting tongue has thrown out virtuous women and deprived them of their labors. Whoever listens to it shall never find rest and never dwell quietly. The stroke of the whip makes marks in the flesh, but the stroke of the tongue breaks the bones. Many have fallen by the edge of the sword, but not as many who have fallen by the tongue. It is good for he who is protected from its venom, who has not drawn its yoke, nor been bound in its bands. For its yoke is a yoke of iron, and its bands are bands of bronze. The death from it is an evil death. The grave is better than it. It shall not rule over those who revere Elohim, nor shall they be burned with its flame. Those who forsake Yahuwah shall fall into it, and it shall burn in them, and not be quenched. It shall be sent upon them as a lion, and devour them as a leopard. As you hedge your possessions with thorns around, and bind up your silver and gold, weigh your words in a balance, and make a door and bar for your mouth. Beware, you do not slip by it, lest you fall before he who lies in wait. Chapter 29. He who is kind shall lend to his neighbor, and he who strengthens his hand guards the commands. Lend to your neighbor in his time of need, and repay your neighbor again in due season. Guard your word, and deal trustworthily with him, and you shall always find that which is necessary for you. Many reckon what was loaned to them to be found, and put to trouble those who helped them. Till he has received, he shall kiss a man's hand, and for his neighbor's silver he shall speak softly. But when he should repay, he shall prolong his time, and return words of grief, and complain of the time. If he overcomes, he shall hardly give the half, and he shall count it as though he had found it. If not, he has deprived him of his silver, and he has gained an enemy without cause. He pays him with cursings and slander, and instead of esteem, he shall pay him shame. Many have therefore refused to lend for other men's evil deeds, fearing to be cheated. Yet have patience with the man in poverty, and do not delay to show him kindness. Help the poor for the sake of the command, and do not turn him away because of his poverty. Lose your silver for your brother and your friend. Do not let it rust under a stone to be lost. Lay up your treasure according to the commands of the Most High, and it shall bring you more profit than gold. Store up kind deeds in your storehouses, and it shall deliver you from all affliction. It shall fight for you against enemies better than a mighty shield and a strong spear. An honest man stands guarantor for his neighbor, but he who is impudent shall forsake him. Do not forget the friendship of your guarantor, for he has given his life for you. A sinner shall overthrow the good manner of his guarantor, and he who is thankless shall forsake he who delivered him. Guarantee has done many of good estate, and shaken them as a wave of the sea. It has driven mighty men from their houses, so that they wandered among foreign nations. A wicked man transgressing the commands of Yahuwah shall fall in guarantee, and he who undertakes and follows other men's business for gain shall fall into lawsuits. Assist your neighbor according to your ability, and beware that you do not fall into the same. The necessities for life are water and bread and garments, and a house for privacy. Better is the life of a poor man in a lowly cottage than food of delicacies in another man's house. Whether little or much, be content, that you do not hear the reproach of your house, for it is a miserable life to go from house to house. For where you are a stranger, you dare not open your mouth. You shall entertain and feast and have no thanks, and you shall hear bitter words. Come, you stranger, and furnish a table, and feed me of what you have ready. Give place, you stranger, to an esteemed man. My brother seeks lodging, and I have need of my house. These matters are grievous to a man of understanding, the contempt of a household and the reproach of the lender. Chapter 30. He who loves his son causes him to often feel the rod, that he may have joy from him in the end. He who punishes his son shall have joy in him, and shall rejoice in him among his acquaintances. He who teaches his son grieves the enemy, and before his friends he shall rejoice in him. Though his father dies, it is as though he were not dead, for he has left one behind who is like himself. While he lived, he saw and rejoiced in him, and when he died, he was not grieved. He left behind an avenger against his enemies, and one that shall repay kindness to his friends. He who makes too much of his son binds up his wounds, and his body shall be troubled at every cry. A horse unbroken becomes headstrong, and a child left to himself shall be unruly. Spoil your child, and he shall cause you dread. Play with him, and he shall bring you to grief. Do not laugh with him, lest you have sorrow from him, and lest you gnash your teeth in the end. Give him no freedom in his youth, and do not wink at his foolishness. Bow down his neck while he is young, and beat his side while he is a child, lest he become stubborn and be disobedient to you, and so bring sorrow to your heart. Discipline your son, and put him to work, lest his wicked behavior be a stumbling to you. Better is the poor being healthy and strong in body, than a wealthy man who is afflicted in his body. Health and good state of body are better than any gold, and a strong body above infinite wealth. There is no wealth above a healthy body, and no joy above the joy of the heart. Death is better than a bitter life or continual sickness. Delicacies poured upon a closed mouth are as servings of meat placed upon a grave. What good is the offering to an idol? For it neither eats nor smells. So is he who is persecuted by Yahuwah. He sees with his eyes and groans, as a eunuch that embraces a maiden and sighs. Do not give your mind over to sorrow, and do not afflict yourself on purpose. The gladness of the heart is the life of man, and the joy of a man prolongs his days. Love your own being and comfort your heart. Remove sorrow far from you, for sorrow has killed many, and there's no profit in it. Envy and wrath shorten the life, and worry brings age before time. A cheerful and good heart pays attention to his meat and diet. Chapter 31. Watching for wealth consumes the flesh, and the worry of it drives away sleep. Watchful worry does not let a man slumber, as a painful disease breaks sleep. The wealthy labors greatly in gathering wealth together, and when he rests, he is filled with his delicacies. The poor labors in his poverty, and when he finishes, he's still needy. He who loves gold shall not be declared right, and he who pursues corruption shall have enough. Gold has been the ruin of many, and their destruction stands. It is a stumbling block to those who offer to it, and every fool shall be taken in it. Baruch is the wealthy who is found without blemish, and has not gone after gold. Who is he, that we may call him blessed? For he has done wonders among his people. Who has been tried by it and found perfect? Then let him boast. Who might offend and has not offended, or may do evil and has not done it? His good shall be established, and the assembly shall declare his kind deeds. If you sit at a plentiful table, do not be greedy on it, and do not say, there is much food on it. Remember that an evil eye is wickedness, and what is created more evil than an eye? Therefore it weeps at every occasion. Do not stretch your hand wherever you look, and do not thrust it into the dish. Do not judge your neighbor by yourself, but be discerning in every matter. Eat as it is allowed, that which is put before you, but do not devour, lest you be hated. For the sake of manners, be first to cease, and do not be gluttonous, lest you cause stumbling. When you sit among many, do not be the first to reach out your hand. A very little is sufficient for a man of discipline, and he is not short of breath on his bed. Sound sleep comes from moderate eating. He rises early and is attentive, but the pain of worry and bitterness and stomach pains are with a gluttonous man. And if you've been forced to eat, rise up, go vomit, and you shall have rest. My son, please listen to me, and do not despise me, and in the end you shall find, as I told you. In all your work be efficient, so that no sickness comes to you. Whoever is generous with his food, men shall speak well of him, and the report of his good hospitality shall be believed. But against he who is greedy with his food, the whole city shall murmur, and the report of his selfishness shall not be doubted. Do not show your boldness with wine, for wine has destroyed many. The furnace proves the sword edge by dipping, so wine tries the hearts of the proud in drunkenness. Wine is as good as life to a man, if it is drunk moderately. What then is a life to a man that is without wine? For it was made to make men glad. Wine drunk moderately and in season brings gladness of the heart and cheerfulness of the mind. But wine drunken in excess makes bitterness of the mind, with brawling and quarreling. Drunkenness increases the rage of a fool till he stumbles. It diminishes strength and causes wounds. Do not rebuke your neighbor while at wine, and do not despise him in his rejoicing. Give him no words of grief, and do not urge him on. Chapter 32. If you are appointed master, do not lift yourself up, but be among them as one of the rest. Diligently look after them, and then sit down. And when you've fulfilled your office, take your place, that you may rejoice with them and receive a crown for your well-ordering of the feast. Speak, you who are the elder, for it is fitting for you, but with right ruling, and do not withhold music. Do not pour out words when there's a musician, and do not put forth wisdom out of time. A concert of music at a banquet of wine is a signet of ruby mounted in gold, as the signet of an emerald mounted in a work of gold. So is the melody of music with pleasant wine. Speak, young man, if there is need of you, and yet only twice when you are asked. Let your words be few, saying much with few words. Be as one who knows, and yet holds his tongue. If you are among great men, do not make yourself equal with them. And when aged men are in place, do not use many words. Before the thunder goes lightning, and before a humble man goes favor. Rise up early, and do not be the last, and get home without delay. There fulfill your office, and do what you shall, but do not sit with proud speech. And for these blessed he who made you, and has filled you with his goodness. Whoever reveres Yahweh shall receive his discipline, and those who seek him early shall find favor. He who seeks the law shall be filled with it, but the hypocrite shall stumble over it. Those who revere Yahweh shall find right ruling, and shall kindle righteousness as a light. A sinful man shall not be reproved, but finds an excuse according to his liking. A man of counsel is considerate, but a strange and proud man is not troubled by fear, even when he himself has done without counsel. Do no deed without advice, and when you are done, do not regret it. Do not go in a way in which you may fall, and do not stumble among the stones. Do not be reckless on an easy road, and beware of your own children. In every good work, guard your own being, for this is the keeping of the commands. He who believes in Yahweh guards the commands, and he who trusts in him does not come to harm. Chapter 33. No evil shall come upon he who reveres Yahweh, and in trials he also shall deliver him. A wise man does not hate the law, but he who is a hypocrite in it is like a ship in a storm. A man of understanding trusts in the law, and the law is trustworthy to him as a word. Prepare what to say, and so you shall be heard. And draw upon instruction, and then give answer. The heart of the foolish is like a cartwheel, and his thoughts are like a rolling axle. A mocking friend is like a stallion. He neighs under everyone that rides him. Why is one day better than another? When all the light of every day of the year is from the sun. By the knowledge of Yahweh they were appointed, and he turned seasons and feasts. Some of them he has made high days, and set them apart, and some of them he has made regular days. And all men are from the ground, and Adam was created from the earth. In much knowledge Yahweh has spread them, and made their ways different. Some of them he has blessed and exalted, and some of them he set apart, and placed near himself. But some of them he has cursed, and brought low, and removed from their places. As the clay is in the potter's hand to fashion it at his desire, so is man in the hand of he who made it, to give unto them as he thinks best. Good opposes evil, and life against death. So is the righteous against the sinner, and the wicked against the reverent. So look upon all the works of the Most High, and there are pairs of two, one against another, I woke up last of all as one that gathers after the grape gatherers. By the blessing of Yahuwah I profited and trod my winepress like a gatherer of grapes. Consider that I did not labor for myself only, but for all those who seek learning. Hear me, O you great men of the people, and listen with your ears, you rulers of the assembly. Do not give your son and wife, your brother and friend, power over you while you live. And do not give your goods to another, lest you reconsider and you ask for its return. As long as you live, have breath in you. Do not give yourself over to any, for it is better that your children should seek from you than that you should stand to their sympathy. Be the best in all your works, and do not leave a blot on your esteem. At the time when you shall end your days and finish your life, distribute your inheritance. Fodder, a rod, and burdens are for the donkey, and bread, discipline, and work are for a servant. If you put your servant to labor, you shall find rest. But if you let him go idle, he shall seek freedom. A yoke and a collar bow the neck. So are tortures and punishment for an evil servant. Send him to work, so he is not idle. For idleness teaches much evil. Put him to work, as is fit for him. If he is not obedient, put on heavier shackles. But do not be excessive toward any, and do nothing without discretion. If you have a servant, let him be to you as yourself, because you've bought him for a price. If you have a servant, treat him as a brother, for you have need of him as of your own being. If you treat him evilly, and he runs from you, which way shall you go to seek him? Chapter 34. The expectancies of a man of no understanding are empty and false. In dreams raise up fools. Whoever regards dreams is like he who catches at a shadow and follows after the wind. The visions of dreams is the reflection of one to another, even as the likeness of a face to a face. From an unclean matter, what may be cleansed? From that which is false, what truth shall come? Divination and predictions and dreams are empty, and imaginations of the heart, as the heart of a woman in childbirth. If they are not sent from the Most High in your visitation, do not lay your heart upon them, for dreams have deceived many, and they have failed those who put their trust in them. The law shall be found perfect without falsehood, and wisdom is perfection to a trustworthy mouth. A man that has traveled knows much, and he who has much experience shall declare wisdom. He who has no experience knows little, and he who has traveled is full of insight. When I traveled, I saw much, and I understood more than I could express. I was often in danger of death, yet I was delivered because of these. The spirit of those who revere Yahuwah shall live, for their expectancy is in He who saves them. Whoever reveres Yahuwah shall not fear nor be afraid, for He is his expectancy. Blessed is the being of he who reveres Yahuwah. To whom does he look, and who is his strength? For the eyes of Yahuwah are upon those who love him. He is their mighty shield and strong support, a protection from heat and a cover from the sun at noon, a preservation from stumbling and a help from falling. He raises up the being and lightens the eyes. He gives health, life, and blessings. He who offers what is wrongfully gotten, his offering is a mockery, and the gifts of unrighteous men are not accepted. The Most High is not pleased with the offerings of the wicked, nor is he appeased by the multitude of offerings for sin. Whoever brings an offering from the goods of the poor does as the one that kills the son before his father's eyes. The bread of the needy is their life. He who deprives him of it is as a man of blood. He who takes away the livelihood of his neighbor slays him, and he who deprives the laborer of his wage is a shedder of blood. When one builds and another pulls down, what profit do they have but labor? When one prays and another curses, whose voice shall Yahuwah hear? He who washes himself after touching a dead body, if he touches it again, what use is his washing? So it is with a man that fasts for his sins and goes again and does the same. Who shall hear his prayer, or what does his humbling profit him? Chapter 35. He who guards the law brings offerings enough. He who guards the command offers a peace offering. He who repays a good deed offers fine flour, and he who gives in kindness offers praise. To depart from wickedness is pleasing to Yahuwah, and to forsake unrighteousness is an atonement. You shall not appear empty-handed before Yahuwah, for all these are because of the command. The offering of the righteous makes the altar fat, and its sweet savor is before the Most High. The offering of a righteous man is acceptable, and the remembrance of it shall never be forgotten. Give Yahuwah his esteem with a good eye, and do not diminish the first fruits of your hands. In all your gifts show a cheerful face, and dedicate your tithes with gladness. Give to the Most High according to his enrichment unto you, and as you have received, give with a cheerful eye. For Yahuwah repays, and shall give you 7 times as much. Do not think to corrupt with gifts, for he does not accept these. And do not trust in unrighteous offerings, for Yahuwah is judge, and with him is no partiality. He shows no partiality against the poor, but shall hear the prayer of the oppressed. He shall not despise the prayer of the fatherless, nor the widow when she pours out her complaint. Do not the tears run down the widow's cheeks? And is it not her cry against he who causes them to fall? He who Yahuwah serves shall be accepted with favor, and his prayer reaches to the clouds. The prayer of the humble pierces the clouds, and he shall not be comforted till it comes near, and shall not depart till the Most High executes right ruling and judgment. For Yahuwah does not delay, nor is the Almighty patient toward them, till he has crushed the loins of the ruthless, and repaid vengeance upon the Gentiles, till he has taken away the crowd of the proud, and broken the scepter of the unrighteous, till he has given to everyone according to their deeds, and to the works of men according to their schemes, till he has judged the cause of his people, and caused them to rejoice in his kindness. Favor is welcomed in the time of affliction, as clouds of rain in the time of drought. Chapter 36. Show favor upon us, O Yahuwah, Elohim of all, and look on us, and send your fear upon all the nations that do not seek you. Lift up your hand against the foreign nations, and let them see your strength. As you were set apart in us before them, so you be exalted among them before us. And let them know you, as we have known you, that there is no Elohim but you alone, O Elohim. Show new signs, and make other awesome wonders. Esteem your hand and your right arm, that they may put forth your wondrous works. Raise up displeasure and pour out wrath. Remove the adversary and destroy the enemy. Shorten the time. Remember the covenant, and let them declare your wonders. Let he who escapes be consumed by the rage of the fire, and let those who oppress the people perish. Crush the heads of the rulers of the Gentiles that say, there is no one else but us. Gather all the tribes of Jacob together. Your inheritance is from the beginning. O Yahuwah, show favor upon the people that are called by your name, and upon Yisrael, whom you have named your firstborn. Oh, be kind to Jerusalem, your set-apart city, the place of your rest. Fill Zion with your unspeakable words, and your people with esteem. Give witness to those who have possessed from the beginning, and raise up prophets that are for your name. Reward those who wait for you, and let your prophets be found trustworthy. O Yahuwah, hear the prayer of your servants. According to the blessings of Aharon over your people, let all those who dwell on the earth may know that you are Yahuwah, the Elohim of old. The stomach consumes all foods, yet one meat is better than another. As the mouth tastes different kinds of game, so does a heart of understanding false speeches. A crooked heart causes grief, but a man of experience shall repay him. A woman shall accept any man, yet one daughter is better than another. The loveliness of a woman cheers the face, and there is nothing a man loves better. If there is kindness, meekness, and comfort in her tongue, then her husband is not like other men. He who acquires a wife begins a possession, a help like himself, and a pillar of rest. Where no wall is, their possessions are plundered, and he who has no wife shall wander about sighing. Who shall trust a crafty thief that skips from city to city? Even so a man that has no house and lodges wherever the night takes him. Chapter 37. Every friend says, I am his friend also. But there is a friend which is only a friend in name. It is not a grief unto death when a companion and friend is turned to an enemy. O wicked thoughts, where have you come? To cover the earth with deceit? There is a companion who rejoices in the prosperity of a friend, but in the time of trouble shall be against him. There is a companion who helps his friend for his stomach and takes up a shield against the enemy. Do not forget your friend in your heart, and do not forget him in your wealth. Every counselor extols counsel, but some who counsel for themselves. Beware of a counselor, and know before what need he has, for he shall counsel for himself, and cast the lot against you, and say to you, Your way is good, and afterwards stand on the other side to see what shall befall you. Do not consult with one that suspects you, and hide your counsel from those who envy you. Nor consult with a woman regarding she of whom she is jealous, nor with a coward in the matters of battle, nor with a merchant concerning exchange, nor with a buyer about selling, nor with an envious man about thankfulness, nor with a ruthless man regarding kindness, nor with the lazy for any work, nor with the yearly hired man about finishing work, nor with the idle servant of much business. Do not listen to these in any matter of counsel, but be continually with a reverent man, whom you know to guard the commands of Yahuwah, whose mind is according to your mind, and shall grieve with you if you fail. And let the counsel of your own heart stand, for there's no man more trustworthy to you than it. For the mind of a man sometimes tells him more than 7 watchmen that sit high above in a tower. And above all this, pray to the Most High, that he directs your way in truth. Let reason go before every work, and counsel before every action. The face is a sign of changing of heart. 4 ways of all are apparent, good and evil, life and death, but the tongue rules over them continually. There is one who is wise and teaches many, and yet does not profit himself. There is one who shows wisdom in words and is hated. He shall be destitute of all food. For favor is not given to him from Yahuwah, because he has neglected all wisdom. Another is wise to himself, and the fruits of understanding are as praise in his mouth. A wise man instructs his people, and the fruit of his understanding do not fail. A wise man shall be filled with blessing, and all those who see him shall regard him as blessed. The days of the life of a man may be numbered, but the days of Yisrael are without number. A wise man shall inherit esteem among his people, and his name shall be forever. My son, prove your being in your life, and see what is evil for it, and do not give in to it, for not all is profitable for all men, nor has every being pleasure in every matter. Do not be gluttonous in any delicacy, nor too greedy with food, for excess of food brings sickness, and gluttony shall turn to disgust. Many have perished by gluttony, but he who guards himself prolongs his life. Chapter 38. Esteem a physician with the esteem due to him for the uses which you may have for him. For Yahuwah has created him. For healing comes from the Most High, and he shall receive esteem from the Sovereign. The skill of the physician shall raise his head, and in the sight of great men he shall be admired. Yahuwah has created medicines out of the earth, and he who is wise does not reject them. Was not the water made sweet with wood, that its power might be known? And he has given men skill, that he might be esteemed by his marvelous works. With such he heals and takes away their pains. Of such the perfumer makes a perfume, and of his works there is no end. And from him there is peace over all the earth. My son, in your sickness do not be slack, but pray to Yahuwah, and he shall heal you. Cease from sin, and order your hands well, and cleanse your heart from all wickedness. Offer sweet fragrance and a remembrance of fine flour, and make an offering of fat of your being. So give place to the physician, for Yahuwah has created him. Do not let him leave you, for you have need of him. There is a time when there is good success in their hands, for they shall also pray to Yahuwah, that he would prosper that which they give, for ease and health to prolong life. He who sins before his Maker, let him fall in the hand of the physician. My son, let tears fall down over the dead, and begin to lament as if you had suffered great harm yourself, and then cover his body according to the custom, and do not neglect his burial. Weep bitterly, and make a great mourning with lamentation as he is worthy, and that a day or two, lest you are spoken evil of, and comfort yourself for your grief. For from grief comes death, and heaviness of the heart destroys strength. In affliction, sorrow also remains, and the life of the poor is the curse of the heart. Take no grief to heart. Drive it away, and remember the latter end. Do not forget it, for there is no returning again. You shall do him no good, but harm yourself. Remember my judgment also, for so shall yours be also. Yesterday for me, and today for you. When the dead is at rest, let his remembrance rest, and be comforted for him, when his spirit has departed from him. The wisdom of a learned man comes by opportunity of leisure, and he who has little business may become wise. How shall he who holds the plow attain wisdom? And who sharpens the goad? Who drives the oxen, and is occupied in their labor, and whose talk is of bowls? He gives his mind to making furrows, and is diligent to give the cattle fodder. So every carpenter and worker that labors night and day, and those who cut and engrave seals, and are diligent to make great variety, and give themselves to copy imagery, and watch to finish a work. Also the smith, sitting by the anvil, and considering the iron work. The smoke of the fire weakens his flesh, and he fights the heat of the furnace. The noise of the hammer and the anvil is constantly in his ears, and his eyes are fixed on the pattern that which he makes. He applies his mind to finish his work, and watches to polish it perfectly. So the potter sits at his work and turns the wheel around with his feet, who is always focused at his work and makes all his work by number. He molds the clay with his arm and bows down his strength before his feet. He applies himself to the glazing, and he is diligent to clean the furnace. All these rely on their hands, and everyone is skilled in his work. Without these, a city cannot be inhabited, and they could not dwell where they do, nor go up and down. They shall not be sought in public council, nor sit high in the assembly. They shall not sit on the seat of judges, nor understand the ruling of judgment. They cannot declare righteousness and right ruling, and they shall not be found where parables are spoken. But they maintain the face of the world, and their desire is in the work of their craft. Chapter 39. But he who gives his mind to the law of the Most High, and is occupied in the study of it, seeks out all of the ancient wisdom, and is occupied in the prophets. He guards the saying of the men of name, and where wise parables are, he shall be there also. He shall seek out the secrets of proverbs, and speak of hidden parables. He shall serve among great men, and appear before princes. He shall travel through foreign countries, for he has examined the good and evil among men. He applies his heart early to look to Yahuwah who made him, and shall pray before the Most High, and open his mouth in prayer, and make supplication for his sins. When Yahuwah, the Almighty, acts, he shall be filled with the spirit of understanding. He shall pour out wise sayings and give thanks to Yahuwah in his prayer. He shall guide his counsel and knowledge, and on his secrets he meditates. He reveals that which he has learned, and shall boast in the law of the covenant of Yahuwah. Many shall commend his understanding, and as long as the world endures, it shall not be blotted out. His remembrance shall not depart, and his name shall live from generation to generation. Nations shall speak of his wisdom, and the assembly shall declare him blessed. If he dies, he shall leave a greater name than 1,000, and if he lives, he shall increase it. Yet I have more to say which I have thought upon, for I am filled as at the full moon. Listen to me, you set-apart children, and bud as a rose of the field growing by the wadi, and give a sweet fragrance as frankincense, and flourish as a lily. Send out a fragrance and sing a song of praise. Bless Yahuwah in all his works. Exalt his name, and extol his praise with the songs of your lips and with harps. And in praising him you shall say after this manner, all the works of Yahuwah are exceedingly good, and whatever he commands shall be accomplished in due season. And none shall say, what is this? Why is that? For at an appropriate time they shall all be sought out. At his command the waters stood as a heap, and the reservoir of waters at the words of his mouth. Whatever pleases him is done at his command, and none reverses his deliverance. The work of all flesh are before him, and there is none hidden from his eyes. He sees from everlasting to everlasting, and there is no matter too marvelous for him. A man need not say, what is this? Why is that? For he has made all for their uses. His blessing covered the dry land as a river, and watered it as a flood. As he turned the water salty, so shall the Gentiles inherit his wrath. As his ways are clear to the set apart, so they are stumbling blocks to the wicked. The good matters are created for the good from the beginning, so evil matters for sinners. The basic necessities for the whole use of man's life are water, fire, iron, and salt, flour of wheat, honey, milk, and the juice of grapes, and oil, and garments. All these are for good to the righteous. So to the sinners, they are turned to evil. There are spirits that are created for punishment. who in their wrath lay on many strokes. In the time of destruction they pour out their strength and appease the wrath of he who made them. Fire and hail and scarcity of food and death, all these were created for punishment. Teeth of wild beasts and scorpions and serpents, the sword for punishing the wicked to destruction. They shall rejoice in his command, and they shall be ready upon earth when needed. And when their time comes, they do not transgress his word. Therefore, from the beginning I knew and thought upon these, and have left them in writing. All the works of Yahuwah are good, and he shall give all that is needed in due season, so that a man cannot say, "This is worse than that." For in time they shall all be proved good. And therefore praise Yahuwah with all your heart and voice, and bless the name of Yahuwah. Chapter 40. Great hardship is created for every man, and a heavy yoke is upon the sons of Adam. From the day that they go out of their mother's womb till the day that they return to the mother of all, their imagination of what is to come in the day of death are their thoughts and fear of heart. From he who sits on the throne of esteem to he who is humbled in dirt and ashes, from he who wears purple and a crown to he who is clothed with a linen robe, wrath and envy, trouble and unrest, fear of death and displeasure and strife. And in the time of rest on his bed, his sleep at night changes his knowledge. He gets little or no rest, and after his sleep, he is as in need of a day of watching, troubled in the vision of his mind, as if he had escaped out of a battle. When all is safe, he wakes and marvels that the fear was nothing. These come to all flesh, both man and beast, and 7 times more upon sinners. Death and bloodshed, strife and sword, calamities, scarcity of food, distress, and the scourge. These are created for the wicked, and the flood came for their sakes. All that are of the earth shall return to the earth again, and that which is of the waters returns to the sea. All bribery and unrighteousness shall be blotted out, but right dealing endures forever. The goods of the unrighteous shall be dried up like a wadi, and shall vanish with noise like great thunder and rain. While the generous shall rejoice, so transgressors shall come to naught. The children of the wicked shall not bring forth many branches, but are as unclean roots on a hard rock. The weed growing on all water and riverbank shall be pulled up before any grass. Kindness is like a most fruitful garden, and favor endures forever. To labor and to be content with what a man has is a sweet life, but he who finds a treasure is above them both. Children and the building of a city continue a man's name, but a blameless wife is counted above them both. Wine and music rejoice the heart, but the love of wisdom is above them both. The flute and the harp make a sweet melody, but a pleasant tongue is above them both. Your eye desires favor and loveliness, but more than both is grain while green. A friend and companion never meet wrongfully, but above both is a wife with her husband. Brothers are a help for time of trouble, but kind deeds shall deliver more than them both. Gold and silver makes a solid footing, but counsel is esteemed above both. Wealth and power lift the heart, but the reverence of Yahuwah is above them both. There is no lack with the reverence of Yahuwah, and with it you need not seek help. The reverence of Yahuwah is a fruitful garden and covers him above all esteem. My son, do not lead a beggar's life, for better is it to die than to beg. The life of he who depends on another man's table cannot be considered a life, for he pollutes himself with the food of other men. But a wise, disciplined man guards himself from it. Begging is sweet in the mouth of the shameless, but in his inward parts a fire burns. Chapter 41. O death, how bitter is the remembrance of you to a man that lives at rest in his possessions, to the man who has no pain unto him, and that has prosperity in all, even to him who is yet able to gain food. O death, your law is acceptable to the needy, and to him whose strength fails. That is now in the last age, and pained withal. And to he who despairs and has lost patience, do not fear the lot of death. Remember those who have been before you and who have come after, for this is the lot from Yahuwah over all flesh. And why are you against the decision of the Most High? There is no searching in the grave, whether you've lived 10 or 100 or 1,000 years. The children of sinners are abominable children, and those who keep company in the dwelling of the wicked. The inheritance of the children of sinners shall perish, and their descendants shall be an everlasting reproach. The children complain of a wicked father, because they shall be reproached for his sake. Woe unto you, wicked men, who have forsaken the law of the Most High Elohim! For if you increase, it shall be to your destruction. And if you are born, you shall be born into a curse. And if you die, a curse shall be your lot. All that are of the earth shall turn to earth again. So the wicked shall go from a curse to destruction. The mourning of men is over their bodies, but the evil name of sinners shall be blotted out. Have regard for your name, for that shall continue with you above 1,000 great treasures of gold. A good life has few days, but a good name endures forever. My children, guard discipline in peace. For wisdom that is hidden, and a treasure that is not seen, what profit is there in either? A man that hides his foolishness is better than a man that hides his wisdom. Therefore be ashamed according to my word, for it is not good to retain all shame, nor is it altogether approved in every matter. Be ashamed of whoring before your father and mother, and of a lie before a prince and a mighty man, of an offense before a judge and ruler, of wickedness before the assembly and people, of unrighteous dealing before your partner and friend, and of theft in regard to the place where you sojourn, and in regard to the truth of Elohim and his covenant, and to lean with your elbow upon the food, and despising to give and take, and of silence before those who greet you, and to look upon a whore, and to turn away your face from your relative, or to take away a portion or a gift, or to gaze upon another man's wife, or to be meddling with his female servant. Do not come near her bed, or words of reproach before friends. And after you have given, do not reproach, or of repeating and speaking again that which you have heard, and of revealing secrets. So you shall be truly ashamed, and find favor before all men. Chapter 42. Of these matters do not be ashamed, and allow no one to sin by them. Of the law of the Most High and his covenant, and of judgment to declare the wicked right, of reckoning with your partners and travelers, or of the gift of the inheritance of friends, of exactness of balance and weights, or of acquiring much or little, and of the haughty selling by merchants, or much correction of children, and to draw blood from the back of a wicked servant. Where a wicked wife is, safekeeping is good, and shut up where many hands are. Deliver all by number and weight, and put in writing all that you give out or receive in. And do not be ashamed to inform the unwise and foolish, and the very old who contends with those who are young. Thus you shall be truly learned, and approved of all men living. The father wakes for the daughter when no man knows, and the concern for her takes away sleep. When she is young, lest she pass the flower of youth, and being married, lest she should be hated, and in her maidenhood, lest she should be defiled and become pregnant in her father's house, and having a husband, lest she should misbehave herself, and when she's married, lest she should be barren. Keep a close watch over a shameless daughter, lest she make you a laughingstock to your enemies, and a byword in the city, and a reproach among the people, and make you ashamed before the assembly. Do not look upon the loveliness of every woman, and do not sit in the midst of women, for a moth comes from garments, and wickedness from women. Better is the hardness of a man than a courteous woman, a woman who brings shame and reproach. I shall now remember the works of Yahuwah, and declare that which I have seen. In the words of Yahuwah are his works, and all his creation does his desire. The sun that gives light looks upon all, and its doing is full of the esteem of Yahuwah. Yahuwah has not given power to the set-apart ones to declare all of his marvelous works, which Yahuwah the Almighty firmly settled, that whatever exists might be established for his esteem. He seeks out the deep and the heart, and considers their crafty schemes. For Yahuwah knows all that may be known, and he looks upon the signs of the world. He declares matters that are past and those to come, and reveals the path of that which is hidden. No thought escapes him, nor is any word hidden from him. He has adorned the excellent works of wisdom, and he is from everlasting to everlasting. Unto him none is added, nor shall he be diminished. He has no need of any counselor. Oh, how desirable are all his works, and that a man may see even a spark. All these live and remain forever for all uses, and they are all obedient. All matters are equal, one against another, and he has made none imperfect. One establishes the good of another, and who is ever filled with looking upon his esteem? Chapter 43. The pride of the heights, the clear firmament, the loveliness of the heavens with his esteem display. The sun when it appears, showing a marvelous instrument at its rising. The work of the Most High at noon, it scorches the land, and who shall stand its burning heat? A man blowing a furnace works with heat, but the sun burns the mountains 3 times more, breathing out fiery vapors and sending out bright rays. It blinds the eyes. Great is Yahuwah who made it, and at his command it runs speedily. He made the moon also to serve in its season for appointed times, and a sign for the world. From the moon is the sign of feasts, a light that decreases in its completion. The new moon is called after its name, increasing wondrously in its changing, being an instrument for the hosts above, shining in the firmament of the heavens. The loveliness of the heavens, the esteem of the stars, an ornament giving light in the highest places of Yahuwah. At the command of the set-apart one, they stand in their order, and never weary in their watches. Look upon the rainbow and praise he who made it. It is very lovely in its brightness. It surrounds the heavens with a splendid arc, and the hands of the Most High have bent it. By his command he makes the snow to fall in place, and sends the lightning of his judgment swiftly. Through this the storehouses are opened, and the clouds fly onward as birds. By his great power he makes the clouds pour out, and the hailstones are broken small. At his sight the mountains are shaken, and at his desire the south wind blows. The noise of thunder causes the earth to tremble. So does the northern storm and the whirlwind. As birds flying he scatters the snow, and its falling is as the settling of grasshoppers. The eye marvels at the loveliness of its whiteness, and the heart is astonished at its falling. He also pours the frost as salt upon the earth, and being hardened, it lays on the top as sharp icicles. When the cold north wind blows and the water is hardened into ice, it remains upon every collection of water and clothes the water like a breastplate. It devours the mountains and burns the wilderness and consumes the grass like fire. A mist coming speedily stands as a heater of all, a refreshing dew coming after heat. By his counsel he calms the deep and plants islands within it. Those who sail on the sea tell of its dangers, and when we hear it with our ears, we marvel at it. For in it are strange and wondrous works, differing kinds of all creatures and whales created. By him the end of them has a benefit of good, and by his word all exists. We may speak much and yet come short. Therefore, in summary, he is all. How are we able to exalt him? For he is great above all his works. Yahuwah is awesome and exceedingly great, and his power is marvelous. When you esteem Yahuwah, exalt him as much as you may, for he shall even yet far exceed. And when you exalt him, deliver all your strength, and do not be weary, for you shall never declare enough. Who has seen him that he might tell us? And who could exalt him as he is? There are still greater than these which are hidden, for we have seen but a few of his works. For Yahuwah has made all, and to the reverent has he given wisdom. Chapter 44. Let us now bless men of name, and our fathers who brought us forth. Yahuwah has worked great esteem by them. Through his great power from the beginning, those who ruled in their reigns, men named for their strength, giving counsel by their understanding and declaring prophecy, leaders of the people by their counsel, and by their knowledge of learning fitting for the people. Wise and learned are their instructions, such who compose musical songs and speak verses in writing. Wealthy men equipped with resource, living peaceably in their dwellings. All these were esteemed in their generations, and were the esteem of their times. They are some of them who have left behind a name, that their blessing might be declared. There are some who have no remembrance, who have perished as though they had never been, and have become as though they had never been born, and their children after them. But these were kind men, whose righteousness had not been forgotten. With their seed, a good inheritance shall continually remain, and their children are within the covenant. Their seed stands fast, and their children for their sakes. Their seed shall remain forever, and their esteem shall not be blotted out. Their bodies are buried in peace, but their names live forever. The people shall tell of their wisdom, and the assembly shall declare their praise. Hanok pleased Yahuwah, and was translated, being an example of repentance to all generations. Noach was found perfect and righteous. In the time of wrath he was taken in exchange. Therefore he was left as a remnant upon the earth when the flood came. An everlasting covenant was made with him, that no longer would all flesh perish by the flood. Abraham was a great father of many people. There was none like him in esteem, who kept the law of the Most High and was in covenant with him. He established the covenant in his flesh, and when he was tried, he was found trustworthy. Therefore he assured him with an oath that he would bless the nations in his seed, and that he would multiply him as the dust of the earth, and exalt his seed as the stars, and cause them to inherit from sea to sea, and from the river unto the utmost parts of the land. With Yitzhak he likewise established the blessing of all men, and the covenant. He caused it to rest upon the head of Yaakov. He acknowledged him with his blessing, and gave him an inheritance, and divided his portions. Among the 12 tribes he divided them. Chapter 45. And he brought out from him a kind man, who found favor in the sight of all flesh, even Moshe, beloved of Elohim and men, whose remembrance is blessed. He made him like the esteemed set-apart ones, and exalted him so that his enemies stood in fear of him. By his words he caused the wonders to cease, and he made him esteemed in the sight of sovereigns. And he gave him a command for his people, and showed him part of his esteem. He set him apart in his trustworthiness and humility, and chose him out of all men. He caused him to hear his voice, and brought him into the thick cloud, and gave him commands before his face, even the law of life and knowledge, that he might teach Yaakov his covenant, and Yisrael his right rulings. He exalted Aharon, a set-apart man like him, even his brother of the tribe of Levi. He made an everlasting covenant with him, and gave him the priesthood among the people. He adorned him with comely ornaments, and clothed him with a robe of esteem. He put upon him perfect esteem, and strengthened him with the splendid garments, with linen trousers, with a long robe, and the shoulder garment. And he surrounded it with pomegranates, and with many golden bells all around, so that as he walked there would be a sound, and a noise made that would be heard in the tabernacle, for a remembrance to the children of his people. With a set-apart garment of gold and blue, silk and purple, the work of embroidery with a breastplate of right ruling, and with Urim and Thummim, with woven scarlet, the work of the skilled workman, with precious stones engraved like seals and mounted in gold, the work of the engraver with writing engraved for a remembrance, after the number of the tribes of Yisrael. He placed a crown of gold upon the turban in which was engraved, set apart, an ornament of esteem, a precious work, the desire of the eyes, elegant and lovely. Before him there were none like them, nor did any stranger ever put them on, but only his children and his children's children for all time. Their offering shall be completely consumed twice every day continually. Moshe ordained him and anointed him with set-apart oil. This was appointed to him with an everlasting covenant, and to his seed so long as the heavens should remain, that they should serve him and execute the office of the priesthood and bless the people in his name. He chose him out of all men living to offer slaughterings to Yahuwah, incense and a sweet savor for remembrance, to make atonement for his people. He gave him his commands and authority in the laws of right ruling, that he should teach Yaakov the witnesses and instruct Yisrael in his Torot. Foreigners conspired together against him and scorned him in the wilderness, even the men that were on the side of Dathan and Abiram, and the assembly of Korah, with rage and wrath. This Yahuwah saw, and it displeased him, and his wrathful displeasure they were consumed. He did wonders upon them to consume them with fiery flame. But he made Aharon more esteemed, and gave to him an inheritance, and divided to him the first fruits of the increase. Most of all, he prepared bread in abundance, for they eat of the offerings of Yahuwah, which he gave to him and his seed. However, in the land of the people he had no inheritance, nor had he any portion among the people, for Yahuwah himself is his portion and inheritance. The third in esteem is Phaneach, the son of Eleazar, because he had ardor in the reverence of Yahuwah, and stood up with good courage of heart when the people turned back, and made atonement for Yisrael. Therefore there was a covenant of peace made with him, that he should be the chief of the sanctuary and of his people, and that he and his descendants should have the height of the priesthood forever. According to the covenant made with David, son of Yeshai, of the tribe of Yehudah, that the inheritance of the sovereign should be to his descendants alone. So the inheritance of Aharon should also be to his seed. Elohim gave you wisdom in your heart to rightly rule his people in righteousness, that their good is not abolished, and that their esteem may endure forever. Chapter 46. Yeshua, the son of Nun, was a brave warrior, and was the successor of Moshe in prophecy, who according to his name was made great for the saving of the elect of Elohim, in taking vengeance on the enemies that rose up against them, that he might place Yisrael in their inheritance. What great esteem he attained when he lifted up his hands and stretched out his sword against the cities, who before him ever stood up to it. For Yahweh himself brought his enemies to him. Did the sun not go back by his doing? And was not one day as long as two? He called upon the Most High El when the enemies pressed upon him on every side. And Yahweh, the Almighty, heard him. And with hailstones of great strength he made the battle fall violently against the nations. And at the descent he destroyed those who resisted, that the nations might know all their strength, because he fought in the sight of Yahuwah, and he followed the Almighty. In the time of Moshe, he also did a work of kindness, he and Caleb the son of Yehunneh, in that they withstood the assembly, and withheld the people from sin, and appeased the wicked murmuring. And of 600,000 people on foot, these two were preserved to bring them into the inheritance, even to the land that flows with milk and honey. Yahweh also gave strength to Caleb, who remained with him to his old age, so that he entered into the high places of the land, and his seed obtained it for an inheritance, that all the children of Israel might see that it is good to follow Yahuwah. And concerning the judges, every one by name, whose heart did not go whoring, nor departed from Yahuwah, let their memory be blessed. Let their bones flourish from their place, and let the name of those who are esteemed be continued upon their children. Shemuel, the prophet of Yahuwah, beloved of his master, established a reign and anointed princes over his people. By the law of Yahuwah, he rightly ruled the assembly, and Yahuwah showed respect towards Yaakov. By his trustworthiness, he found a true prophet, and by his word he was known to be trustworthy in vision. He called upon Yahuwah the Almighty when his enemies pressed upon him on every side, when he offered the suckling lamb, and Yahuwah thundered from the heavens, and with a great noise made his voice heard, and he destroyed the rulers of the Zorites and all the princes of the Pelshtites. Before his long sleep, he bore witness in the sight of Yahuwah and his anointed. I have not taken any man's goods, so much as a shoe. No man accused him. And after his death, he prophesied and showed the sovereign his end, and lifted up his voice from the earth in prophecy to blot out the wickedness of the people. Chapter 47. And after him rose up Nathan the prophet in the time of David. As the fat is taken away from the peace offering, so David was chosen out of the children of Yisrael. He played with lions as with young goats, and bears as with lambs. Did he not slay a giant when he was still young? Did he not take away the reproach of the people when he lifted up his hand with a stone in the sling and beat down the boasting of Goliath? For he called upon the Most High El, and he gave him strength in his right hand to slay that mighty warrior and raise up the horn of his people. So the people esteemed him with 10,000s and praised him with the blessing of Yahuwah, in that he gave him a crown of esteem. For he destroyed their enemies on every side, and brought to naught his adversaries, the Pelishtites, and broke their horn in pieces to this day. In all his works he praised the set-apart one, Most High, with words of esteem. With his whole heart he sang songs, and loved he who had made him. He also appointed singers before the altar, that with their voices they made sweet melody, and sang praises daily with their songs. He adorned their feasts, and put in order the appointed times until the end, that they should praise his set-apart name, and that the tabernacle might resound from the morning. Yahuwah took away his sins and exalted his horn forever. He gave him a covenant of sovereigns and of a throne of esteem in Yisrael. After him rose up a wise son, and for his sake his dwelling was broad. Shalomo reigned in a peaceable time and was esteemed. For Elohim made quiet all around him, that he might build a house for his name and prepare his sanctuary forever. How wise you were in your youth, and filled with understanding as a flood. Your being covered the whole earth, and you filled it with deep parables. Your name went to the far islands, and for your peace you were loved. The lands marveled at you for your songs and proverbs and parables and interpretations by the name of Yahuwah Elohim, which is called Yahuwah Elohim of Yisrael. You gathered gold as tin and multiplied silver as lead. You bowed your loins to women, and by your body you were brought into subjection. You stained your esteem and polluted your seed, so that you brought wrath upon your children, and were grieved for your folly. So the reign was divided, and out of Ephraim ruled a rebellious reign. But the kindness of Yahuwah shall never cease, nor shall any of his works perish. Neither shall he cut off the descendants of his elect, and the seed of he who loves him he shall not take away. Therefore he gave a remnant to Jacob, and out of him a root of David. Thus Shalomo rested with his fathers, and of his seed he left behind him Rehoboam, even the foolishness of the people, and one who had no understanding, who turned the people away through his counsel. And there was also Jeroboam son of Nebat, who caused Yisrael to sin, and showed Ephraim the way of sin. And their sins were multiplied exceedingly. They were driven out of the land, for they sought out all wickedness, till the punishment came upon them. Chapter 48. Then Eliyahu the prophet stood up as fire, and his word burned like a lamp. He brought a severe scarcity of food upon them, and by his ardor he diminished their number. And by the word of Yahuwah he shut the heavens, and also brought down fire 3 times. O Eliyahu, how you were esteemed in your wondrous deeds! And whose esteem is like yours, who raised up a dead man from death, and his being from the place of the dead? By the word of the Most High, who brought sovereigns to destruction, and honorable men from their bed, who heard the rebuke of Yahuwah at Sinai, and the judgment of punishment in Horeb, who anointed sovereigns to take vengeance, and prophets to succeed after him, who was taken up in a whirlwind of fire, and in a chariot of fiery horses, who were ordained for reproofs in their times, to appease the wrath of judgment of Yahuwah, before it broke forth into wrath, and to turn the heart of the father to the son, and to restore the tribes of Jacob. Blessed are those who saw you and slept in love, for we shall surely live. It was Eliyahu who was covered with a whirlwind, and Elisha was filled with his spirit. While he lived, he was not moved by the presence of any prince, nor could any bring him into subjection. No word could overcome him, and after his death, his being prophesied. He did wonders in his life, and at his death, his works were marvelous. For all this people did not repent, nor did they depart from their sins, till they were plundered and carried out of their land. They were scattered through all the earth. Yet there remained a remnant of the people, and a ruler from the house of David, of whom some did that which was pleasing to Elohim, and some multiplied sins. Hezekiah fortified his city and brought in water into the midst of it. He dug the solid rock with tools of iron and made wells of water. In his time, Sennacherib came up and sent the Rabshakeh, and lifted up his hand against Zion, and boasted proudly. Then their hearts and hands trembled, and they were in pain as a woman in childbirth. But they called upon Yahuwah, who is kind, and stretched out their hands towards him. And immediately the set-apart one heard them out of the heavens, and delivered them by the service of Yeshayahu. He smote the army of Asher, and his messenger destroyed them. For Hezekiah had done that which pleased Yahuwah, and was strong in the ways of David his father. As Yeshayahu the prophet, who was great and trustworthy in vision, had commanded him. In his time the sun went backward, and he lengthened the sovereign's life. He saw by an excellent spirit what would come to pass, and he comforted those who mourned in Zion. He showed what should come to be at the end of time, and secrets before they came to be. Chapter 49. The remembrance of Yoshiyahu is like the composition of perfume that is made with the skill of the perfumer. It is sweet as honey in all mouths, and as music at a feast of wine. He acted uprightly by instructing the people. He took away the wicked abominations. He directed his heart toward Yahuwah, and in the time of the wicked, he established the worship of Elohim. All except David and Hezekiah and Yoshiyahu were wicked, for they forsook the law of the Most High. Even the sovereigns of Yehudah failed. Therefore he gave their strength to others, and their esteem to a foreign nation. They burned the chosen city of the tabernacle, and made the streets desolate, according to the prophecy of Yirmiyahu. For they treated him evilly, who was yet a prophet, set apart in his mother's womb, that he might root out and afflict and destroy, and he might also build up and plant. It was Ezekiel who saw the esteemed vision, which was shown to him upon the chariot of the cherubim. For he remembered the enemies under the sign of rain, and directed those who went rightly. And of the 12 prophets, let their remembrance be blessed, and let their bones flourish again out of their place. For they comforted Yaakov, and delivered them with true expectancy. How shall we exalt Zerubbabel? Even he was as a signet on the right hand. So was Yeshua, son of Yotzadak, who in their time built the house, and raised a set-apart tabernacle to Yahuwah, which was prepared for everlasting esteem. And among the elect was Nehemiah, whose name is great, who raised up for us the walls that had fallen, and put up the gates and the bars, and raised up our ruins again. But no man on earth was created like Hanoch, for he was taken from the earth. Neither was there a young man born like Yosef, a governor over his people and a supporter to the people, whose bones were regarded by Yahuwah. Shem and Sheth were in great esteem among men, and so was Adam, above every living creature in creation. Chapter 50. Shimon, the great high priest, the son of Oniyah, who in his life repaired the house again, and in his days fortified the tabernacle, and by him the double height from the foundation was built, the high fortress of the wall around the tabernacle. In his days the cistern to receive water, being surrounded as the sea, was covered with plates of bronze. He looked after the tabernacle that it should not fall, and fortified the city against a siege. How esteemed he was in the midst of the people when coming out of the sanctuary. He was as the morning star in the midst of a cloud, and as the moon in its fullness, as the sun shining upon the tabernacle of the Most High, and as the rainbow giving light in the bright clouds, and as the flower of roses in the spring of the year, as lilies by the rivers of water, and as branches of frankincense in the time of summer, as fire and incense in the fire holder, and as vessels of beaten gold mounted with all kinds of precious stones, and as a fair olive tree budding forth fruit, and as a cypress which grows up the clouds. When he put on the robe of esteem, and was clothed with perfection of esteem, when he went up to the set-apart altar, he made the garment of the set-apart one esteemed. When he took the portion out of the hands of the priests, He himself stood by the hearth of the altar, surrounded as a young cedar in Lebanon, and as palm trees they surrounded him. So were all the sons of Aharon in their esteem, and the offerings of Yahuwah in their hands, before all the assembly of Yisrael. And finishing the service at the altar, that he might adorn the offering of the Most High Almighty, he stretched out his hand to the cup, and pouring the blood of the grape, he poured out at the foot of the altar a sweet fragrance to the Most High, sovereign of all. Then the sons of Aharon shouted, and sounded the silver trumpets, and made a great noise to be heard, for a remembrance before the Most High. Then all the people hurried together and fell down on their faces on the earth to worship Yahuwah El Shaddai, the Most High. The singers also sang praises with their voices. With all kinds of sounds, sweet melodies were made. And the people sought Yahuwah, the Most High, by prayer before He who is kind, till the set-apart one of Yahuwah had ended, and they had finished his service. Then he went down and raised his hands over the whole assembly of the children of Yisrael, to give the blessing of Yahuwah with his lips, and to rejoice in his name. And they bowed themselves down to worship a second time, that they might receive a blessing from the Most High. Now therefore bless the Elohim of all, who does only wondrously everywhere, who exalts our days from the womb and deals with us according to his kindness. He gives joy to the heart, and that peace may be in our days in Yisrael forever, that he would confirm his kindness with us and deliver us in his time. There are two manner of nations which my heart abhors, and the third is no nation, those who sit on the mountain of Shamaron, and those who dwell among the Pelishtites, and those foolish people who dwell in Shechem. Yeshua, son of Sirach of Yerushalayim, has written in this book the instruction of understanding and knowledge, from whose heart poured out wisdom. Blessed is he who shall be exercised in these, and he who treasures them up in his heart shall become wise. For if he does them, he shall be strong in all. For the light of Yahuwah leads he who gives wisdom to the reverent. Blessed be the name of Yahuwah forever and ever. Amen. Amen. Chapter 51. A prayer of Yeshua, the son of Sirach. I thank you, O Master and Sovereign, and praise you, O Elohim, my Savior. I give praise to your name, for you are my defender and helper, and have preserved my body from destruction, from the snare of the slanderous tongue, and from the lips that forge lies, and have been my helper against my adversaries, and have delivered me according to the multitude of your kindnesses and greatness of your name, from the teeth of those who were ready to devour me, and out of the hands of those who sought after my life, and from the great afflictions which I had, from the choking fire on every side, and from the midst of the fire, which I did not kindle, from the depth of the inward parts of Sheol, from an unclean tongue, and from lying words, by an accusation to the sovereign, from an unrighteous tongue. My being drew near unto death. My life was near to Sheol beneath. They surrounded me on every side, and there was none to help me. I looked for the support of men, but there was none. Then I thought upon your favor, O Yahuwah, and upon your acts of old, and how you save those who wait on you, and save them out of the hands of their enemies. Then I lifted up my supplications from the earth, and prayed for deliverance from death. I called upon Master Yahuwah the Father, that he would not leave me in the days of my trouble, and in the time of the proud, when there was no help. I praise your name continually, and sing praises with thanksgiving, and so my prayer is heard. You saved me from destruction, and delivered me from the evil time. Therefore I thank and praise you, and bless your name, O Yahuwah. When I was still young, or if I ever went traveling, I desired wisdom openly in my prayer. I prayed for her before the tabernacle, and shall seek her to the end. Even from the flower till the grape was ripe, my heart has delighted in her. My foot went the right way. From my youth upward I sought after her. I bowed down my ear a little and received her, and acquired much learning. I profited in this. Therefore I shall ascribe esteem to he who gives me wisdom. For I proposed to go after her, and earnestly I followed that which is good. So I shall not be ashamed. My being has wrestled with her, and in my doings I was exact. I stretched forth my hands to the heavens above, and bewailed my ignorances of her. I directed my being unto her, and I found her in pureness. I have had my heart joined with her from the beginning. Therefore I shall not be forsaken. My heart was troubled in seeking her. Therefore I have received a good possession. Yahuwah has given me a tongue for my reward, and I shall praise him with it. Draw near unto me, you unlearned, and dwell in the house of learning. Why are you slow? And what do you say to these? Seeing your beings are very thirsty. I opened my mouth and said, acquire her for yourself without silver. Put your neck under the yoke, and let your being receive instruction. She is found to be close at hand. See with your eyes how I have only little labor, and have received much rest. Acquire learning with a great sum of silver, and get much gold by her. Let your being rejoice in his kindness, and do not be ashamed of his praise. Work your work early, and in his time he shall give you your reward.